other graphics cards along the way is indicating that the RX 8000 series chips will only
Let's see
have
what
18
happens
gigabit
here.
per second GDDR6 memory, which is slower than you get on the XTX or the XT right now, or the 7800 XT. And the leaker indicating that yes, this is going to be across the entire RDNA 4 lineup. The only GPUs that have 18 gigabits per second right now are the 7900 GRE and the 7700 XT and below. And now it looks like that's going to be throughout the entire 8000 series SKU. Now it's not clear if this is a technical necessity for however AMD decided to design RDNA 4. It's not really going to work well with GDDR7. It's not going to benefit tremendously from higher memory speeds, or potentially it could be that this is a cost-saving operation. They know that in order for them to be price competitive with where they need to come in at,
GDDR6X
keep it on the tried and true 6, not even necessarily needing to upgrade, but this does seem to be putting them at a little bit of a disadvantage compared to NVIDIA, which has been roughly confirmed by all sources to be anticipating to be on GDDR7 for the RTX 50 series. But also, AMD has had ways of combating memory things with their Infinity Cache and L3 cache setups on their GPUs, making it so that that is one of the things that boosts their performance, and maybe that's again what they're relying on with RX 8000. We're expecting to get some details, hopefully, at Computex, maybe a little sneak preview. I do highly anticipate that Ryzen 9000 should get announced with a release date at Computex. This is Brett speaking personally. Do not take this as any sort of truth right here, but announcement and release date of CPUs and showcase of GPU. They're gonna do that like weird thing that AMD does, which they have a GPU off-site and they're live streaming it in, and they go, wow, look at all that performance, look at how good that looks, but you're just looking at a 6 megabit live stream into their feed, which is then being forced out and decompressed and compressed again by YouTube, and you're just like, thanks, Lisa Sue, I can see how good Liza P looks on a 7900 XTX. That for sure looks like the way it's gonna look when I have it on a monitor in front of me. And I got your comments on a monitor in front of me right now. So let's get into comment response. I got the shock of my life yesterday because Binance Wallet commented on our hot news episode. Kyler, did you see this? Binance, the crypto company, they commented on us. The official one with 1.26 million subscribers in one video. Probably a hacked account, that's my guess, because they commented 37 minutes ago and they have 108 likes, which is not reasonable for our comment speed. So don't get hacked, folks. But then we got It's Dion saying Sapphire motherboard with the Sapphire GPU would be a cool setup. I agree. I kind of been getting more into Sapphire stuff, and I'd like to see more of that in my system. Then we got Ten Toes Gaming saying poor Brett having to defend himself every day from the commenters.
Where are they?
Episode. You're wrong. Stop doing that, guy. And I said no. I'm not gonna stop doing that. I intentionally do a comment response because I want everybody to know that this, as much as the hot news is me shouting into the void, it's also you participating by shouting into your keyboard with your fingers tapping really fast, and then I shout into the void back at you. It's a great collaborative experience. This is fun. This is fun. This does not impact my mental health in any way negatively whatsoever at all. And then Zaberfang says Horizon OS based on Android and Android based on Linux. It's Linux all the way down, folks. macOS is based on Linux. Let's see what comment nerds have to say about that. And then we got Ice Warrior saying, I still have a brand new, not open 700K and Z790 or Smashster motherboard. With all these issues going on, is it even worth opening and using, or just return it and see what the new Core Ultra 200 will be in a few months or so from now? I'm running a 2050K, 128 gigabytes of DDR4 3200, and a 3090 Ti for the Win 3 Ultra from Evga.
Yo, we're getting third party.
Upgrade, but I like to upgrade every few years or so. Thanks for any advice. I would say, Ice Warrior, if you already have it, it's not necessarily such a bad upgrade. The 14700K appears to be still in that sweet spot of not being impacted by all of the issues that are going around, because it's essentially just a 12900K being rebranded as the i7, and there have not been many reports of the 12900K having these degradation issues. It appears to be almost, as far as I can see, exclusively tied to the 24-core 32-thread chips of either generation. So I think if you already had it and you already decided yes, this is exactly what I want, then I wouldn't hesitate personally to make this happen. I struggle to necessarily say you should do it, simply because if you feel like you have any sort of regret already, and I say keep it, and then you have regret later on down the line, I don't want to be responsible for your life getting a little sour. You already have a good system. The 10850K is a phenomenal chip. I mean, Kyler was on that editing here at the office until like less than 2 months ago when we did his Tower 300 build, which you can check out that video right up there. But the 10850K is a powerhouse, and if you're still fine with it, the Core Ultra 200 is going to be releasing later this year. So
that one's broke.
If that's what you want to be on, you can do it. It also just want to ask, is there a particular reason you're not considering something like a 7950X or 7800X 3D? Do you need all of those cores? Are you okay with, you know, pitches and
Mayor Koza says,
the way you like it? Let me know. And I'm done letting you know my thoughts. My brain is tired. I'll be back here with more of the hottest tech news tomorrow, my friends.
Mayor Koza says, I so unlucky.
Alright, what's this?
On Miss Kip's channel,
me.
with Janet and Leslie.
Broken
which is
enemy
really
shield.
fun. Miss
Reloading.
Kip actually is a lot cooler
Weak.
than he used to be. I actually
Get shot at.
not that I
Enemy
didn't
down.
but like
He's broke.
actually, he actually feels like a really nice person.
He's right below me. Is he with this way? Yeah, he's going this way. He's going this way.
Not when she knew I said.
I anticipated there being some joke about Reflect.
Wonder which upgrade I should
Joke,
get.
not even during the podcast. Leslie, this time, built a this podcast that hasn't even
We're on the up and coming roll. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely better than I
I have
was.
an evac tower.
2-3 years ago, I
Push
was
back
much
the
more
battery real quick,
content
like
built
that.
than I was. It was bad. I mean, it was like too much. It was way too much. I was too content built. I was mean to other people. But now I fell off, so I can't. No, I just feel bad genuinely being mean to people nowadays. I don't.
Medkit.
Not that I feel. It's like, what did Ray ever do? What they were just jokes. Like, the problem is this. Like, I grew up in a street where everything is a joke. Even my birth is a joke. No one cares about where I grew up. Everyone just shits on everybody about everything. And I've come to learn by just being a streamer that 99% of the world is not New Jersey. And that's really hard for me to grasp as a person
pick
from
up an
Jersey with an
upgrade.
ego. Not everything's about New Jersey. I've kind of just understood, like, yeah, like maybe I should stop
Come and
being
get your
a
birthday
gabagool,
present.
and I'm much nicer, you know. And I'm glad you said that, because I you know what, I try to be nicer. I mean, also, am I really gonna make a reflect joke in 2024? Like, is that really where I'm at? I usually make jokes about this. Like, if I make a reflect joke, it's gonna be just bad. Like, good one, dude. Like, you're really gonna bring up that from 3 years ago? Good one, reflect, nice. It's just not good. There's no joke with it, so I just won't do it. No, chat. I'm not. I would got not a do team it. inside
this building.
I've done so many, it's made me blue in the face. They're not good anymore. That's why I don't really care to do it. You know. So it's just not. It's not the same. But I love hanging out with them. I actually love being with them, and I hope they hang out with me because I love them.
Got an upgrade. Gonna
Or GJ11 is the result of an unprecedented collaboration between academia and industry, stemming from the AVIC 601S program.
an enemy
With its
down
unique
in.
turbofan
Watch
engine,
yourself.
flying wing design, and a wingspan of 14 meters, the Sharp Sword skillfully combines stealth technology with operational efficiency.
No,
The
it's gonna go
stealth
well.
of the GJ11 is not just a matter of shape, but also of function. Release images show an aircraft whose design minimizes visibility to enemy radars, essential for reconnaissance missions and potential
Right
for
here.
combat. Its internal weapon bay and capacity to carry up to 2 tons of
Weak.
payload attest to its offensive vocation, while
Very
its
nice,
maximum
right?
takeoff weight of 10 tons and speed reaching 1,000 kilometers per hour position it as a formidable
Let's
actor
get
in
the
the
lifeline.
21st century skies. And you'd be right to fear
Good right
this
here.
beast. A 2-ton carrying reconnaissance and defensive drone that travels at 1,000 kilometers
They're
per
putting
hour
tower out.
and is not as visible to enemy radars. I mean, come on. This thing is a beast.
Rings around
The
corner, 10
GJ-11's
left.
combat
Are you
range
you don't you want to go through this building? You want to go up there and go around?
its low
Let's go
radar
that way.
visibility thanks to stealth
There's a fight in this
technology
building if you're going through this building.
underscores China's ambition to
Oh, they're
possess a
going around. They
secure
just took the tower
asset
around.
capable of operating
make a
far
battery on
behind
this
enemy
property.
lines
Rings
undetected.
moving.
Its ability to autonomously take off from Type 075 amphibious assault ships also reveals valuable versatility for force projection
You
and
guys want to try to hold
special
these guys out a little
operations.
bit?
Though still mysterious, the display of the GJ-11
Oh, wait,
at
that's
exhibitions like Airshow China 2021 has shed light on some of its capabilities, notably through scale models showing its internal weapon bays. The GJ-11 Sharp Sword represents a significant step in the evolution of unmanned combat aerial vehicles.
Where are we making the stand? Here or along the edge over
Okay,
there?
right here, right here.
While the details of
Right in
its
front of me.
operational missions remain shrouded in mystery, its very existence signifies China's entry
90
into a
on
new
one.
era of aerial
How close are they?
where discretion
Really
and
close.
firepower intertwine.
One shot on the big one.
Nations the world over are cowering, and China is now at the helm of offensive power.
Just hold him out.
I wonder how you feel about that. Okay, so
got
we
a
covered the
knock.
land, we covered air, and now it's cliche of me, but I do want to cover water as well. I can stop with these gizmos that China has, but not until I cover the holy trifecta. You see, China was also the first country to openly deploy a large displacement unmanned underwater vehicle, otherwise known as an LDUUV, which is basically a fully robotic submarine capable of long-range missions. Various naval warfare theorists expect that unmanned underwater vehicles, or UUVs, will eventually serve alongside manned submarines in undersea warfare. But so far, only small, short-range UUVs have seen much use, particularly to recover objects from the sea floor. This is because it's difficult to maintain a drone command link to an undersea vehicle. A large, long-range UUV would have to be fully autonomous, that is, capable of carrying out its mission without any human input.
Fuck.
With what's known, China's
that same
LDUUV design doesn't appear to have any torpedo tubes and is
Oh, you guys were
presumably
trapped
an
there? I was
underwater
wondering what the fuck you were doing.
Two
Yeah, I was
sector
reading.
masts are visible, as well as
Because
likely
my
a large
phone was-
sonar aperture behind its flat nose. The HSU-001 could prove highly useful for long-endurance missions monitoring the movements of both Navy submarines and surface warships. Data that could be periodically...
I'm gonna get my drop and immediately start moving.
Satellite antenna below the surface. However, that bit of information is a few years off base. It's very much probable that by now, China has secretly developed that technology to a point where it is dangerous and can be used in armed conflict.
We got a vehicle up
Also be
there.
thrown off and
We
think
can
that
get
just
to it.
because they seem like reconnaissance vehicles, they're useless.
We might be able to make it on foot.
Large underwater robots are seen as one of the key emerging technologies in naval warfare. But so far, the cost
someone's on our back, on our right.
have meant that no country, not even the United States, has fielded them operationally.
Hostile spotted.
As
Right
the
there.
size of the
He's a
AUV gets
solo.
larger and
Yeah, he is a solo.
the
You want to
complexity
fight
of
him?
operating it,
Yeah, cut
transporting
him
and
off.
maintaining it increases. So operational AUV,
Battery low.
the HSU is therefore at the leading edge of AUV adoption. And it just may be one of the factors that sets China apart in this global arms race. So these are some of the concoctions that China is secretly cooking.
Third party.
out there. Some of these are unorthodox weapons, yes, but that does not make them any less deadly. In fact, they are quite deadly. And because they are unorthodox, they are unpredictable. With limited information known about them, it's hard to react or to brace for them. And it seems as if these are just a drop in the bucket of the unorthodox tricks and weapons. Chinese state media has made reports that the Chinese military is arming its special forces with sci-fi weapons, futuristic
Right here.
individual combat weapons
party.
like grenade-launching assault rifles, corner-shot pistols, and knife guns. You got that? Corner-shot pistols? That's going to be quite something to see in real-life applications. As always, as these new, weird, dangerous, and unorthodox weapons come to life, I will be right here to update you on all of it. And if you're seeing this right now, it thinks the YouTube algorithm thinks that you will love this video. Let's see if they're right, huh?
Where's that guy?
This is a video about a battery. This battery to be exact. But I need to give you a little bit of backstory so you know why this battery was such a great answer for my current setup, and also I think for anything else out
Let's
there
go,
too.
man, it's not.
But the disclosure
Yeah.
to this video is also kind of weird, because originally this was just supposed to be a sponsored showcase video from Small Rig about their VV212 female battery. But then
I got it now.
the box came in the mail, and I saw this guy's face on it. Caleb
Really
Pike from
regularly.
DSLR Video Shooter was on my box, and I was like, "What's going on?" So I texted Caleb, and he's like, "Yeah, product collaboration with Small Rig with this new battery." So all objectivity went out the window right then and there, because obviously I'm not gonna roast. It's probably one of my oldest YouTube friends' first, greater collab product. Luckily though, the battery's actually pretty darn good. He's even got his little signature on the cable, on the little leather binding for the cable here. This is a pretty good cable, by the way. Not that that's the most important part here, but it's a 240 watt rated USB-C, USB-C. I've tested it on a few different applications. It's good. And as somebody who cares about cables, I think
Mayakosa
it's a pretty good
says,
little cable.
Portal.
Anyway, before I get into the battery, let's talk a little bit about what my current setup was, because I've had some people ask me about my current rig, and I've got some updates to the rig that I'm pretty excited about. But the battery can actually be in lieu of some of the choices that I made, which is pretty rad. So, Sony a7 IV connected to a Atomos Ninja 5. I've got obviously my signature purple HDMI cable connecting that. And then I've got a DC.
I'm gonna push this guy.
that goes to the battery eliminator, which then has decap.
He's right there.
And
Push him.
I also used to run a dummy battery decap as well. I'm not doing that anymore. Instead, I'm just running a USB-C cable from the plate to the camera to keep it used all the time.
Really
USB-C. Now, Condor Blue sent over their new V-mount plates, which are excellent. Probably the best V-mount plates I've ever used. Now, this video isn't about my Condor Blue V-mount plates, but I want to give you a quick little tour of these so you can see why this battery is so dope. So up here we've got a decap port, and I love that they're using the reversible decap port. It's 3 pins, so you can either use the top 2 or flip it upside down and use the bottom 2. That's sweet, convenient. And then we've got USB-C, PD, in and out, and then 12 volt and 8 volt DC barrels. On the bottom on this side, we've got another decap, also the reversible type. And then we've got this cool little trigger lock thing here that protects the on-off switch, an eject button for the V-mount battery, and then power indicator LEDs. And then on top, we've got another USB-C port, and then some threads and pins for expansion modules that Condor Blue is coming out with. One is going to be an SDI HDMI converter to put on top of your plate, which is going to be sweet. Another one is they have a power expansion. It's going to have two 2-pin LEMOs and one 24-volt 3-pin Fisher port. So that's going to be cool if you need those things. But otherwise, it's really compact. The locking system for it is excellent. There's no instances of accidentally the battery coming out. Once that battery's in there, doesn't matter how much force you put on it, it is locked in. It's just an excellent V-mount plate, the best one I've ever used. So what I do right now is this USB-C on the top
Mayakosa says,
is what's
one
running
shot.
into the camera to give it continuous power while it's battery. If power fails, I throw the battery inside. But also, the USB-C port on the side, on all 3 of my rigs that have a cord, a USB-C cord that goes from the plate to a wall wart that gives power delivery to the plate and thus to the whole rig. So I can even hot swap the battery. I can take the battery out and it will still continue running because of the power delivery, and it will charge my V-mount battery and everything else. So that's the reason why this plate is so great. And then Small Rig sent over this battery, and what's crazy is this battery does pretty much everything I just explained through this sort of complicated rig, but all inside the battery and at a higher capacity, and just the battery is the same price as just my battery here, even though it has like a lot of the plate parts on it too. So let's talk about what is on this battery and why it solves a lot of those same problems all at once. Now, Small Rig has a few other sizes of a similar design to this. They have the 99 watt and the 150 and that kind of thing. But this 212 watt behemoth is coming in at $439. The same as my 150 watt Evolve. And while it is bigger, I'll admit this is the biggest micro battery I've ever seen. It's not crazy big considering how much bigger the capacity is. But the coolest thing is all the ports that it has on it. So we've got 2 USB-C ports, both that support 140 watt, so you can rapid charge the battery, but also they're both, input-output ports, which is great. The same thing I was talking about with the plate over here. So you can run power in, run power out, or you could power 2 heavy-duty devices off this. Even if you didn't want to use it on your camera rig, you could have a 212 watt laptop battery if you wanted to, over 140 watts. And they've got a Type A in the middle, which is convenient, which even my plate doesn't have.
When I was a magician for 15 years of my life, being fooled by a magic trick becomes less and less and less the case. You start to learn new techniques, you read a lot of books, you meet a lot of people, you go to conventions, and you gain this wealth of knowledge where when you watch someone perform something, you kind of just know how it works. You can see the moves, you know the techniques, you know the different things that are happening, and you can see it laid out in front of you. That moment of astonishment where you just feel nothing but wonder and wow, what the heck did I just see that fooled me completely, that diminishes significantly. I feel like the same thing kind of happens with photography. We're spoiled with these incredible digital cameras and massive sensors, incredible low light technology in it, and it's great and it's amazing, but we've become so accustomed to that it doesn't really faze you. When a new camera's released or announced, it could say it's 12K video and you'd be like, oh cool, that's a lot of K. A bigger sensor, better in low light, etc. We've seen all of these things at this point, so it's nothing new under the sun, just improvements. But sometimes something comes along that you haven't seen, and it reignites that, what we would call in magic, that moment of astonishment, where you feel that childlike wonder again inside, looking at something you've never seen, thinking to yourself, wow, I've never seen a camera like this.
Is this all your film cameras?
These are the ones that I actually don't use that often. That's the dust. This one I love because I think it's one of the most beautiful form factors. That's how you turn it on. To turn it off, you push down, like physically push down the flash, and then close it. It's an excellent, it's just beautiful.
I know.
The trouble is this shoots on 28mm film.
Oh, that's
Yeah, and I push down the... So the whole thing, it's also made out of titanium, and it's just beautiful. But
it would feel good in your pocket too.
it feels good in your pocket, like it feels... Everything about it's great. The trouble is they stopped making 28mm.
Yeah.
They call it like Advantage. This is what it looks like.
Oh my gosh.
This is what it looks like in the box. But
So you can still shoot those 3?
except for that's 20 years old. My only beef with this, it doesn't say the date. There's no way to burn the date on it.
Land there if you know it's good for you.
There's a timelessness about 35mm photos. What better way to capture that timelessness than by burning the time in? So this is the same model, Fuji Tiara, and it burns the date in.
What's the favorite one? Only grab one camera.
For me, like, this is my whole, like, 20s were captured on this camera. This very specific lens is, like, the best lens that I think that this has ever shipped. It's a 2-inch lens, fixed lens, no zoom. It's very tough, it's water resistant.
And you've said yourself that you've been shooting film recently all summer.
Yeah, I only take pictures of my family on film.
That's it.
I just think we're like one nuclear, Russian, or Chinese BMP attack away from having all of our iCloud memory.
Yeah.
Just zap.
Someone told me that once. They're like, you don't own your own iCloud. Like, it could be gone in moments.
It's like all of my photos from like the early 2000s, all of those photos are on these hard drives back here. Some of these files are totally from. So I can't access those photos. But like my great-grandfather's photos from the 1920s, I can still pick up and physically look at.
And your kids can look at them.
And my kids can look at
Yeah.
them. So like that is the timelessness. Like these are some of like my photo albums, and these are all. This is 2006. This is 18 years old, and there's no air leak, and like each one of the photos is so well preserved in there. And
Perfect. And it's just instantly accessed. You just like, you can like call back in memory, Arizona, Costa Rica, open it up, find the exact photo.
And they're forever. It's like the reason why cell phone photos look so good is because they're sweetening the picture before you even see the preview of it. Like it makes my grandmother, when she takes pictures of the grandkids, be like, they look great. But what is the opposite of that? Like celluloid is just like, you're getting what you get, and that's it.
Yep.
And there's a truth in that I come to value more and more as everything becomes like digital and so perfectly inhuman.
That's been the last year for me, is that whole journey of like analog everything.
Yeah.
And I've just like, it brought me back from the edge where just everything digital just got so tiring and repetitive. And then shooting film, I shot weddings in film way back in the day, not for very long, but then this whole year on film just made all the difference.
Yeah, it's the only way.
This video is brought to you by Artlist. Think of Artlist like a hardware store for content creators, where you can go there and get everything you need to finish whatever project it is that you're working on. So if you need music, you can grab it there. If you need sound effects, titles for your videos, or motion graphics, all of those things you can grab there. Plugins for the software you're using to create the content, you can grab there. An all-in-one platform that has hundreds of thousands of assets at your disposal. That is very, very helpful when you're making videos, when you're making anything, when you're making content on the internet. Like, for example, the music in this video. I want the intro to have more intrigue and more mysterious than the actual footage of New York that I want to be a bit more upbeat. Those things are very easy to find and plug into your content and be on your way within minutes. You're not wasting hours here. They've got subscription plans for any creator, so you don't have to worry. You don't have to pay a ton of money and get a bunch of things you'll probably never use, or pay a little bit and not have access to all the things that you actually want. They've got a music and sound effects subscription, footage and templates subscription, a max and business plans. You've all heard of brands like Monday.com or Expedia. They all use Artlist to elevate their content. And those are massive, massive companies. Those subscriptions I just listed start as low as $9.99 a month and work their way up from there, tailored specifically to you. So if you use the link in the description below, you'll get 2 months free of this. And I recommend you try it out, at least, because it is very, very helpful. If you're making stuff for the internet, chances are you're going to need something from a website and service like Artlist at some point in the process. So thank you again to Artlist for sponsoring this video. Hit the link in the description and be prepared to have your mind blown by what I'm going to show you next.
Walking from here.
Tell me about this camera. So this is the Canon Wide Lux. So it's a panoramic. Older, they're made in the 80s.
And this is the one Jeff Bridges uses.
Yeah, I saw a photo reel of some of his stuff that he did. Yeah, wait, those look so cool, and they put you just right in the moment. So this thing, when you wind it, the turret rotates.
That is so cool.
And then it only has a couple settings, so aperture, shutter speed. Whenever you want to click it, you just get your frame.
Oh, what? Dude, that is so sick. I didn't know it was that fast.
So that's the fastest shutter speed, which is that'll probably come out a little dark in here. It's best for
Oh, you just exposed that.
Yeah. This is the slowest one.
Oh, that's spooky for sure.
But it's still it doesn't wobble too much, which is good. The main thing about this camera is that you have to hold it like this. If you hold it like this, it'll get your fingers inside. Look through the viewfinder here, because you can see how wide it is.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome.
Cool.
Yo, this just gives you a whole new perspective on everything. Wait, what kind of film does it take?
35.
Really?
Yeah, so 36 exposures will get you 21.
I'm getting shot from behind, bro.
Because it's 1.5.
Do you like shooting film more than shooting digital photos?
I like the colors of it. And I also like the attention behind it.
Yeah.
I'll shoot iPhone all day. It's
yeah, whatever.
Peter's here, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
But that, I get in such a different headspace where I'm all right, let's get you here, let's move this light, and then take the picture.
You care about it more.
I care about it, and it leads to a better image in that way.
Yeah. It's so wild that I just happened to meet you. You happen to have this camera, and literally a week ago, someone was showing me all of Jeff Bridges. I found his book on eBay. I bought it. It's inscribed by him, so that's kind of cool. I haven't even got it yet. And then you walk downstairs into Casey's office with a Wide Lux. I'm like, what? Cool. Can I shoot one?
Yeah, sure.
Target spotted.
You want a full New York City photo?
Just go out the window.
If you lean out this way.
3, 2, 1. That's it?
That's it.
Is that fast?
That's that fast.
Oh my gosh. That's so sick. I 100% am buying one of those. I'm going on eBay in 20 minutes.
So in my hands is the Widelux F8, made in Japan from a company called Canon. Yes, that's actually what it's called. I've never seen a camera with a lens that rotates fully mechanically. There are no batteries in this camera, which is absolutely amazing. On top, you have minimal settings. The aperture dial has a small little nub that you use to turn the wheel. It lines up to the smallest red dot on the outer rim. 3 options for the shutter speed: 15th of a second, 1/25 of a second, and 250. Each of those speeds turn the turret at a different speed. The knob here winds the film back through the rollers. This side cranks the shutter, effectively loading the turret so it's ready to spin. And shutter release. And on top, a level button. On top of the turret, you've got 2 arrows pointing left and right. That's your field of view. Noting those arrows while making sure it's level is your best bet. Make sure to keep your fingers clear. Once the release is pressed, the turret turns, capturing everything in its field of view. I've never seen a camera like this, and it fires things inside your creative brain that you cannot explain. Jordan, thank you for showing me this camera. Alex, thank you for recommending Jeff Bridges' book. I cannot wait to start shooting my new old Widelux. I would encourage anyone out there to continue trying to seek that moment of astonishment, being whatever industry that you're in. Because it's rare, but when you find it, it's like nothing else.
Jinxie most recently had a new podcast guest on, that being Aiden Ross, which seemingly, I mean, we thought maybe they were beefing. If you guys remember the last time we talked about Jinxie speaking about Aiden Ross, it was actually his interview with Moist Critical, where they criticized Kick as a streaming platform and what they've allowed to go down, including crimes and fights and all of the crazy clips that we've seen on the platform. And they went viral for that discussion. In case you guys don't remember all of the criticisms that Jinxie and Charlie had about Kick, here's like a brief TLDR flashback of that previous episode.
Besides the point, I think Kick was the best possible thing for Twitch because before Kick, Twitch could kind of do whatever and there was no competition, right? Because Twitch could kind of just like, you know, they could enforce rules and if I honestly think if Kick wasn't around, they would have just let their nuts hang because where else are you going to go other than Twitch if you want to stream? Like YouTube is great, but YouTube will always be a video platform first. That's YouTube's biggest problem. Twitch is, if you want to watch live streams, you go to Twitch. So like, I don't personally think I would ever go to Kick because I just don't have any desire to, but I love the fact that they're a thing because it makes Twitch better. Like competition makes everything better. Competition is like, that's like the part of why, like, I mean, I'm not saying I'm a big capitalist, but capitalism is breeded off of competition. You want to make the best product, you got to compete with these guys. So before Twitch had no competition, so I love the fact that Twitch has competition.
Yeah, I think it's an important thing to have. What do you think about the culture of Kick, though?
I think it is the worst. I think it's the worst thing I've ever tuned into. So the culture of Kick, and like the biggest selling point was like, we're gonna let it fly.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, okay, like, it's pretty easy to remain in the TOS of Twitch, like, but like, I'm sure, I mean, you're pretty deep into the internet. Like, I'll go on Kick from time to time. Like, if I just want to like rot my brain, it's my go-to. So like, a lot of it is just like IRL streaming where like, let's punch this guy in the face and see what happens. It's like, can we like make content, guys? Like, what even is this? And then there's like, I do hate the culture of it. Like, I don't think it's healthy at all. There are some Kick streamers who like are really good streamers, like Joe Rage.
Yeah, there's some good streamers on there. I agree. It's not all bad.
Yeah, that guy, like, he's a good streamer. He has a good community. He has a good head on his shoulders. He's similar to you. Like, a lot of his takes, he does his research. He like gives an honest, unbiased take. And I've always with him. So like, when he went to Kick, I was like, bro, that's a good pickup for them. Like, because he's an actual, real OG streamer. He gets it. But I think the vibe of it is like, this is the vibe of Kick right now. Move to Miami, buy a streaming backpack, and just punch someone in the face. I think it's
that's
working.
the meta.
So, but yeah, what do you think of Kick?
So I like the competition. Like I said, I think
Yeah.
it's invaluable. If you have more competitors in the space, everyone benefits. Like all of the actual users benefit. But man, that culture on Kick is awful. That shit is terrible. And it's so big about. And Aiden, it's been site
app. Like now, Kick has an app. Like the servers are better. Because I remember even when X2C his first night on Kick, he crashed the server. Like
He
because
did.
he brought like hundreds of thousands of people to Kick.
Yeah.
So like obviously now Kick is way better than like day one. Of course, anything gets better.
What people need to see now is, I want to see Twitch make changes for their creators too. Like I want to see that. I want Kick to make changes ever for creators and Twitch. So like it's better for you, better for me. So it makes the platform, it makes the whole streaming space grow. If that makes sense.
Yeah, because without, I said this before, but like without Kick, Twitch before could kind of just do whatever.
Yeah.
But like now with Kick, like Twitch has to like make their
Like Jinxie,
platform better.
you and Kai will never and definitely ever get spent with Twitch.
I don't know, like I think Twitch's moderation has gotten better recently with like context, like that shows the whole minute of a clip instead of just like showing a clip.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying 100%. Like, because now there's another platform, so like streamers aren't just pigeonholed to one platform.
Yeah.
So like the point you're saying makes sense. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't know, to be honest.
You know, when I first we were talking to you, talking about Kick. I forgot who you had in the pod. I think it was Moist.
Moist.
You know, I do want to tell you that what you said was right. Because I'm gonna tell you, because I was talking to XQC about it. There's like maybe 3 or 4 or maybe 5 content creators that give Kick a really bad look.
Yeah.
And I really wish it wasn't like that, but it's like that because I guess right now bad publicity is good publicity for now.
All publicity, yeah.
That's what I meant. So, but I mean, like I think Kick is still doing really well. You know, we have a creator program now where anyone can basically get paid depending on how many viewers you have. So there's a lot of good things that are happening.
Yeah, the only thing like I definitely
Rocket fly over the wall.
we were just like rambling.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like any and I think like recently Kick is now
Moderation is not good. But what I need to be harder on because the only thing I do is people think that I write the chats. People think that like I can choose stuff. I say stuff. At the end of the day, the moderation team. Like, hey, I want Jason to come back in. I can't just write Jason. Yeah, Eddie has to do it. People think that I have ownership, but I don't have. You know what I mean? Yeah, I get ownership. But you know, the moderation team needs to be more consistent. If I ban, let's say, someone got 100 viewers for something, and then I let somebody for like with like 20,000 viewers live, you kind of have to keep the consistency. That's what we're kind of hard.
Consistent bans, and Aiden talks about that. I don't think that a lot of platforms do consistent bans very well, Twitch included, which we recently talked about on this channel, but I would not say Kick has necessarily improved on consistent bans. A lot of these streamers who have done pretty crazy things have been banned for like 24 hours or not even banned at all. I would think that's a fair statement. I don't think consistent bans are really a thing on Kick, and I think even Aiden has maybe had some input, or he claims to have had some input on like lowering the amount of days that people get banned for. But I do respect the fact that even he can admit, yeah, we have problematic streamers.
Crawl in here if you can.
And I also think it's really cool that Jinxie and Moist Critical can have that conversation, and then Aiden Ross and Jinxie can also have that same conversation. And Jinxie does walk back a little bit on some of the things he said. He does give a little bit of credit where it's due on the improvements that Kick has made. And I will stand by it. I do like the fact that there is competition in the situation. I don't think any streaming platform is doing a fantastic, great, perfect job right now. In fact, I think now more than ever, maybe I'm dumb, you guys can leave your comments down below. I think Twitch is under blackened fire for a lot of various deficiencies that we have pointed out, and I think the same of a rival platform like Kick that also has maybe some additional problems too, but no one's doing a perfect job, so we'll wait and see who actually reigns supreme in the years to come. I'm gonna stick to my like other intuition. I think like the biggest winner of all time is going to be YouTube. You know, we talk about Twitch and the rumors of them, Amazon maybe selling Twitch, you know, them having multiple rounds of layoffs, and then we talk about Kick, can they ever make up that ground or avoid it? And TikTok has just been sitting back and waiting and these streamers might end up. So I'm gonna stick to that. Let's come back to what do you guys think? Aiden Ross confronting Jinxie about his kick speculation and things he said about it, and they had a good conversation ultimately. What do you guys think? Till next time, take care of yourselves. We'll see you back here soon. Okay, ta-ta.
In light of recent video content by different media outlets and overall public sentiment concerning the company operations, I would like to issue a following statement. Dear community, media, and partners, first of all, I would like to say that we take this very seriously. It is true that some of EK external contractors and business partners have experienced delayed payments. We sincerely apologize for the difficulties this has caused them and the lack of adequate communication. In February 2024, I resumed the CEO position to return EK to its respected path. Several issues have already been addressed, including the amended filing of US taxes. We have realigned our focuses while our vision and strategic orientations have remained unchanged. There is still a considerable distance to go, and we immediately began by implementing the following key actions: communicating openly delays and uncertainties that affects outstanding payments, starting with those concerning our personnel, reconciling the relations and communications between all subsidiaries and entities of EK Water Blocks, improving the transparency and frequency of internal communication with all employees concerning our current situation, by resolving any outstanding overtime work issues within the entity. Anyone with a claim, please contact us to check everything and make things right. For that purpose, we are introducing a dedicated email address, reachout@ekwd.com. We appreciate the patience and understanding of our community, customers, and partners during this time. We are committed to fulfilling our financial obligations and regaining your trust.
Oh, mate, I
Our
heard
mission
you
to
were a
elevate
hard
computers
bastard.
for a better world remains at the forefront of our
Break legs,
efforts
my friends.
as we move forward.
Metaphorically. Bend your
Thank you
knees
all
when you
for
land.
standing with us as we work with these challenges, just as you have supported EK for over 2 decades. We are dedicated to making things right and fostering a more responsible company culture. Thank you.
I'm Renee, your YouTube liaison.
And I'm Johanna, the Chief Product Officer at YouTube.
Johanna, I want to talk to you about podcasts, because when I say podcast, the OGs will think back to hand-coding media containers and RSS. More recently, maybe true crime serials or our favorite celebrity chat shows that we on our phones. But what does it mean for a video platform like YouTube?
It's a true podcast that really exemplifies creativity.
Listen up, got another squad coming in.
It's called Murder, Mystery, and Makeup. And so
1 minute and the ring's spitting distance.
about
Just giving my shields a
I have an RE45, that's it.
So this had this really creative and twisted.
If you can get out, I think we should do that.
And this creator tells
Just go craft.
mystery stories.
45
while she's
seconds,
putting on
rings
her
just up
makeup.
ahead.
She's also like selling makeup in the description links. So I just thought this was so creative and really exemplified why a visual platform like YouTube is so powerful for podcasts.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what YouTube is actually doing when it comes to podcasting?
When I think about how I approach product development, we really try to meet users where they're at. So we think about podcasting in 2 ways. On the one hand, you have the very traditional experience, which is RSS, download, episodes, highly productionized listening content. And over the past year, we've been spending a lot of time making the YouTube music much better at supporting this kind of content. And then the second way we think about podcasts is eyes option experience. So stuff that's great to hear and listen to, but also can be
Rings
great to
moving.
watch as well. And that's available both on YouTube Music and on YouTube Main.
I listen to a ton of tech shows
Got some extra supplies.
Form, Twit, but I also like stuff where I just enjoy the panelists, like Play, Watch, Listen. What are some of your favorite podcasts, and where do you listen to them?
I listen to some traditional podcasts, like Hard Fork is a traditional podcast I listen to, but I also listen to a lot of eyes optional content that you may or may not call a podcast. One thing I listen to a lot is comedy.
Care package being
and
delivered.
I listen to Don't Tell Comedy.
Looks like a care
Comedy
package is
Central.
coming
A lot
in.
of
Big
stand-up
things in
comedians
that.
actually have their own channels. And where do I listen? I'll listen in my car, so I'll listen on my commute home to unwind. When I get home, I might pop it on my TV so I can watch while I'm cooking dinner. And then that's cool because you can see what the people look like, not just hear their voices. Or I might watch these as I'm going to bed, just to unwind at the end of a day.
We just had this big change with Google Podcasts migrating into YouTube Music as this centralized destination for podcasts. How are you thinking about YouTube Music now as that engine for podcasts?
Over the past year, we've been working to build in all of the traditional podcasting features to YouTube Music. The first thing we did was actually just pull in podcast content. But then also traditional things like being able to play in a series,
Got us new kill leader. Wouldn't mind. Got old mate banner.
And so we want YouTube Music to be that one-stop shop for all of your listening.
We also have a creator question, this time from Emily.
I'm gonna get him up
Baker.
out here.
I have had a podcast for quite a long
Sounds good.
time, and I've been wondering, would YouTube ever support RSS out for podcasts? Could I just host my podcast entirely on YouTube?
And for those of you who may not know what RSS out is, it means that you could theoretically upload your podcast to YouTube. YouTube would generate an RSS feed for that podcast and then broadcast it out just by any other podcast client.
So is gold.
But we do have the ability to support RSS in. So that allows creators to unlock and have access to the 2 billion users and viewers that are already on our platform.
I've been podcasting since
And now
2008,
this driving
and the
ain't
2
gonna
biggest
drive
pain
itself.
points that I've ever had are, especially in the early days, just how inaccessible distributing video podcasts really was for most people. And
What the
continuously
fuck?
discovering, not just getting my shows in front of an audience, but the episodes. And YouTube really does seem to solve for both of those things.
I'm glad you hit on that because when I think about podcasts on YouTube, the thing I
Just get in the car and go.
is discovery. Watch next.
Good night, beautiful. Maybe this will go better in your dreams.
And one of the challenges I've always found as a listener is like, what should I listen to? What podcasts are out there? I have to ask my friends. Do I have the same taste as them? And so one of the coolest things about YouTube is that we can bring the power of our algorithms and our discovery systems to our podcast.
Yeah, it's like traditional word of mouth, where in a traditional podcast world, if I'm listening to MKBHD's waveform episode on the Pixel phone, maybe I'll get some other generic show suggestions at the bottom. But with YouTube, the recommendation system gives me these other specifically related podcast episodes right around the corner. My Pixel video could be there, which is such a tremendous opportunity for growth and discovery.
It's really nice. Can highlight topics, can highlight creators, can highlight key themes that were already in one podcast and recommend them in another. One really cool example recently we had Club Shay Shay interviewed different millions, and this reached 65 million viewers. And we're able to bring these together in a way that no other platform can, with the kind of scale that really is unprecedented.
We have podcasters now uploading a lot of their back catalogs to YouTube, and those were audio only. They don't have a visual element, and right now they can put album art on it, or they can put an image on it. But is there any thought to maybe using AI to generate some sort of visualization or better viewing experience to go with all that back catalog content?
That is definitely
I'm inside the next train already. Time to prepare.
Another thing that was cool about that question, Renee, is like the back catalog. There's a lot of recent new content that you see on YouTube as a viewer, that you listen to as a viewer. Also, there's so many on YouTube that were created in the past. So I think this is really going to be powerful for both our viewers and podcasters who want to upload.
Thank you so much, Johanna. I am loving this new series. Creators, drop your questions in the comments and keep it real.
What'd you study? Bio? Oh my god. Yeah. That's cool. You could have a job here. Really? Yeah. I have animal care staff that are bio majors that are here and that were vet techs.
When I move to Austin, I'll have a part-time job at Alveus.
Yay! She can work
that'd be
here.
kind of fun.
That'd be sick.
Maybe like twice a week I could come in and volunteer.
You know what?
I could
'Cause
work here.
you guys were talking about coming back when the wolves are here, but miraculously met all these animals that I can program with, you could come back and just like work for a day. we do
I'm
like,
down. I'm down.
That would
Put
be
me to work.
fun.
I would
They're
love to.
Zookeepers for a day.
I would love to. That'd be great.
Guys, they all got jobs. Hooray! Congratulations on your
can we
promotion.
have like
oh sorry.
Avia shirts?
Soda Quota says, F sorry.
I would love that. We could stay. We love Austin so much. We are all talking about coming back in like.
We're
months.
looking at places
We're
today.
not a lot apartments and houses.
That is so funny.
We love
guys.
it here.
I wanna go. I wanna be in Texas for a bit because it'd be so cool to just like volunteer at Alveus and like help out and stuff. I don't know. It was such a good trip. It was so good. So yeah, maybe we will go have a little Texas arc and live there for a little bit. And I don't know, we just had a really good time. It was such a great trip that we were literally looking at places to maybe for
Already
renting
inside the
and
next
stuff
ring.
because I think it'd be fun to live there for like a month or 3 months or something. 3 months? I think 3 months in Texas would be really fun. But obviously I would only go if everyone else went.
Mr. Secretary, you've got some good news to share with anybody who purchases an airline ticket in America. Tell us what that good news is.
Yeah, we're really excited. We are coming out with a new rule that defines and lifts the standard for people getting their money back from airlines when the airline lets them down. One thing that's especially important about this is that you will automatically get a refund when you're entitled to one. The way it works right now is that even if you are technically owed a refund, the burden is on you to go out and get it.
American Airlines is refusing to give me the money back. I've called 4 times now, talked to 2 supervisors, sent 6 emails.
The wait was over 5 hours. I booked my own flight, thinking surely they will refund me. Oh no, they're saying I did not give them the opportunity to reaccommodate.
Over here. Instead of taking 10,000 miles, you can get hundreds of dollars because that's what you paid. That shouldn't be your problem. And so we're making sure that it isn't. It's the airline's responsibility to get you your money back. We're making it so that by default, you get the refund the same way you paid. So credit card or whatever means you used to pay, you get a prompt refund if your flight is canceled. Same if your flight is significantly delayed. We define that as 3 hours domestically, 6 hours internationally.
How long have you been waiting? 7 hours. Since the last stop? Since we checked in.
And there's several other parts of the rule too. For example, maybe your flight got there, but you didn't get one of the services you paid for. You paid extra to check a bag, but your bag didn't get there on time. Or you paid extra for Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi didn't work. This rule makes sure that if that happens, you get the money back that you paid for these services. Part of what we're saying is the refunds need to be not just automatic, they need to be prompt. For a credit card, for example, that means 7 business days. We think this is going to improve the passenger experience, and we even think that it can change airline behavior because there is less of a reason for airlines to allow scheduling on routes that they can't serve very well.
Mr. Secretary, how soon should people see the effects of this rule that you're announcing today?
The rule goes into the Federal Register now, and within 6 months, it starts to take effect. And what that means is if you're booking tickets from that point on, you have confidence that you'll be protected by these new rules.
I'm imagining some people out there who might be cynical and say, you know, Mr. Secretary, airlines are going to continue to make my life difficult. How are they going to be held accountable for making sure that I get the refund that I deserve?
We have tough enforcement powers. It's just that historically, our department didn't always use them.
Run fast, hit fast, win fast.
And it's already paid off. We have now gotten about $3 billion back into the pockets of passengers just since the Biden-Harris administration arrived.
Get ready. Now, 9 major airlines cover hotels, 10 cover meals, 10 rebook for free. And that's real savings for middle class and working class families.
Right around Christmas 2022, the whole system got clobbered by this major winter storm. But then all of the other airlines got back on their feet quickly. Southwest was a different story, and this is about accountability and, frankly, changing the incentives for airlines.
And there's more good work where that came from. We have assessed the toughest penalties ever recorded, in order to make sure that airlines treat passengers better. Well, let me put it this way. When we assessed the $140 million enforcement action against Southwest Airlines, that one action was more than 20 years worth of enforcement before that. And that's designed to send a message to industry that we're serious. And we made sure that it was structured in a way that it didn't all just come back to the Treasury in the form of fines, but that it went back out to passengers in the form of compensation.
I don't know if we're imagining that the Chamber of Commerce or their allies in the corporate world might want to challenge this rule in court. But if they did, help people understand what you're doing is completely according to the rules and authorities that you have.
Look, we've definitely gotten a lot of pushback on our consumer protection agenda, just like we get pushback on all of our regulations. Right now, as we speak, railroad companies are suing us for a very basic rule that generally says you got to have 2 human beings on board a long freight train. So we know that there may be resistance here too. But we also know that the law is on our side. The law clearly gives the Department of Transportation the authority to make sure that there are no unfair or deceptive practices harming consumers, including airline passengers. And anytime we see an industry that is acting in a way that is frustrating or harmful, then we have a responsibility as a regulator, as a policymaker, to do what we can. And it turns out we can do a lot.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see more videos like this one. And if you ever have any ideas for what More Perfect Union should cover next, please drop them in the comments. Thanks. This is my stovetop. It's a glass top radiant electric stove. And if you've ever used one of these, you might have noticed something interesting about its behavior. This is my stovetop. It's a glass... Mr. Secretary, you've got some... Like and subscribe to see more videos like this one. And if you ever have any ideas for what More Perfect Union should cover next, please drop... This is my stovetop. It's a glass top radiant electric stove. And if you've ever used one of these, you might have noticed something interesting about its behavior. The heating elements quickly begin to glow once switched on, and you can feel the intense heat coming from them right away. But when you turn the control knob down to, say, medium power, the element simply goes out. It's not still running, but at half power. It's just off. But then, before too long, it comes back on. Then switches back off. This pulsing behavior endlessly repeats. What's causing that? The answer is this funky component called an infinite switch, also known by the much, much better name Simmerstat. It may not look like much, but each heating element in the cooktop is wired to one of these things, and the Simmerstats are responsible for that pulsing. Let me show you. Through the magic of buying 2 of them, and some other stuff, I've built this little box so I can control anything with a Simmerstat. I'll plug in a lamp to make what it's doing obvious, in addition to a mystery load on the other outlet, which isn't important right now. Let me just stick on a control knob. That's better. Set to high. The Simmerstat doesn't interrupt power flowing through it at all. But when you move the control knob off of the highest power setting, eventually, power cuts out. However, the interruption is pretty brief. Eventually, power returns. These periodic interruptions will repeat indefinitely, but as you turn the control knob further clockwise, each interruption increases in length. Once you reach the medium setting, it will eventually settle into a point where it spends roughly equal time on and off. And the trend will continue. If you go further, it only operates in brief pulses, and those pulses get farther and farther apart. The reason the Simmerstat behaves like this is because this is kind of the only option. Electrically, the heating elements in a conventional electric stove are merely resistors, a very simple component. But those resistors are huge. Each one in this stovetop is capable of outputting at least 1,200 watts, and the larger ones pump out 3 kilowatts. That's great for boiling water, but way too much power for more gentle cooking tasks like, well, what's a good example? A simmer. To allow for that, we have to tame them and reduce their power output. But how would you do that? You might think of adding a second resistor in series with the cooktop element, maybe even a variable resistor. But at these power levels, that theoretical resistor would have to be gigantic, and as it restricted current flow, it would generate quite a lot of heat of its own, which is both wasteful energy-wise and would require cooling. So instead, you might want to use a variable transformer, such as a variac, to produce a range of voltages to choose from. Lower the voltage, and you lower the power consumed by those heating elements. But there we have a similar problem. To handle this much power, that variable transformer would have to be quite large and thus quite expensive. And remember, you'll need 4. So, to allow for fine control over the power output of the heating elements with minimal energy losses and component costs, the Simmerstat was born. This device produces any arbitrary power level by repeatedly switching its load on and off for varying periods of time, a method known as duty cycle control. Before I explain what's going on inside here, though, I want to point out that these things aren't by any means a recent development. In fact, the tech is quite old. Coil-top stoves going back to the 1940s used these same exact controls to modulate their power output. As a matter of fact, the tech just had its 100th birthday. The first place I found it described is in this 1924 patent for Chester I. Hall's invention, signed General Electric. Coil-style heating elements like this are also just giant resistors. So, just as with the glass-top stoves, which came later, the Simmerstat was the most cost-effective way to regulate their output. That means coil-top stoves are exhibiting this pulsing behavior too. However, you generally aren't aware of this happening with a coil-top stove. You can't see it. The heat produced by these coils is generated by a thin wire element embedded in the center of the hollow metal tube which forms the coil. But the gap between the wire that produces heat and the walls of the tube is filled with a sand-like material. The sand fills the tube so it can be bent into different shapes with the wire inside staying centered, which keeps you from getting electric shocks, which is pretty nice. But to get the heat produced by that wire element out of the tube and into cookware, it must make its way to the outer surface, meaning it also has to warm up all the sand in the way, which is a lot of thermal mass. The upshot is that it takes a long time for these elements to get hot enough to visibly glow. So the pulsing behavior of the Simmerstat is visibly obscured. The heating elements below a glass-top stove are very, very different. If I explained them, would that be a tangent? Well, it's not directly related to Simmerstat, so I suppose it would be. But too bad. I bought this, so we gotta discuss it. I expensed it. This heating element assembly is what's actually under the glass of many glass-top radiant electric stoves. It's incredibly simple, just a flat disc of heat-resistant support material hosting a very long, zigzaggy piece of nichrome wire. Actually, 2. This is a selectable size burner, just like this one on my stove at home, composed of a 6-inch intersection and an outer ring to fill it out to the whole.
We got a team above us. We gotta move. We gotta move. We gotta move. We gotta move. There's a team above us. Good work. Good work. Good call. Good call.
But they all work the same way. When voltage is applied across the nichrome wires, they get very hot very quickly to the point of glowing brightly. That speed is the main functional advantage of a glass-top stove, near instant heat output from coal. But you'll notice that in open air, this looks
I'm going to the other jump tower.
Orangey, like the heating elements of a toaster. That's because, well, that's pretty much what these are. But, you say, under the glass of a stove, these appear a deep cherry red when operating. Why is that? Well, this glass is in fact a special ceramic material with some very peculiar characteristics. It's deliberately very bad at conducting heat energy through itself, which keeps other areas of the stovetop cool to the touch, even when parts right next to it are hot enough to melt lead. But the glass lets infrared radiation pass right through it almost completely unimpeded. That's what allows the radiant heat produced by the heating elements under the glass to make it into your cookware, and why you can feel intense heat coming from them right away once they're switched on. The deep red color seen through the glass is the result of filtering. The glass is opaque to almost all wavelengths of visible light, making it appear black to our eyes. But since it passes infrared light just fine, the near-infrared frequencies at the very edge of the visible spectrum will escape that filtering, and you can see them.
Follow me. I'm
pretty wild, right? And if you've ever noticed the
Who said
probe
follow
thing
me?
going across the center of one of these burners and wondered what it's for.
Yeah, where's this guy
well,
going?
two
So
things,
Quota's going through
This
the
is
through the
a
tower.
sensing
All right, we're going
with
through the
two
tunnel.
thermostatic switches
Sorry.
in this little remote enclosure. The first of those switches is
The logo
very
will cover
sensitive
you.
and closes its contacts in the presence of minimal heat to illuminate the hot surface indicator or indicators to warn you that the cooktop is still hot. Count your blessings if you get a separate light for each burner. More often than not, they're all wired in parallel, so any one of them can light up just a single warning light. Those cost cutters. But the other switch in here is wired in series with the heating element itself. Remember that this flat disc of searing heat is trapped below glass. And while that glass is transparent to infrared, it's not perfectly transparent, so it will absorb some heat energy and get quite hot. Plus, even if it were perfectly transparent to infrared, there's going to be a piece of cookware on top of the glass.
He's on top of the tower.
Some of the heat energy
Shit,
right
there's also
down
people over there.
the element. Therefore, tremendous heat builds up in the tiny little sliver of airspace between the glass and the bottom of the thermal system. To protect the glass from getting too hot, the temperature probe will open a safety switch to remove power from the element from getting hot. It usually resets after a few seconds.
What?
It will kill power again if it needs to in order to enforce a
The tower.
safety.
The tower, the tower, the tower, the tower. Don't. I'm going behind here. Get behind this. Get behind this rock.
Full power for several minutes, such as when bringing water to a boil. Anyway, this video is supposed to be about the simmer step.
Get behind the rock and get me up right here.
No, I'm kidding. Earlier, I said that these modulate the power output of cooktop burners using duty cycle control. If that doesn't mean anything to you, that's just a way to say the percentage of time spent powered over an average. Imagine you have a 1200 watt burner unit, but you only need 600 watts of output for whatever particular task you're doing. Well, if you run that burner with a 50% duty cycle, perhaps by running it for 5 seconds of every 10-second period, then although the actual heat output will be alternating between 0 and 1200 watts, over time the effective heat output is the full power multiplied by the duty cycle. In this case, 1200 times 0.5, or 600 watts. Those of you who are more digitally minded might be thinking about pulse width modulation just now. Duty cycle control and PWM are quite similar when it comes to their net effect of producing a lower average power output by cycling a whatever on and off repeatedly. But the two terms technically describe different things. Some might choose to argue with me on that, but PWM isn't necessarily trying to modulate the power output of anything. In fact, it can be used as a signaling protocol for fairly complex tasks. Servo motors, for instance, are sometimes controlled through PWM signaling. The length of the pulses they receive includes a position for it to assume. When you are using PWM simply to modulate power output, say when you use a PWM dimmer to reduce the intensity of DC-powered LEDs, strictly speaking, that is still duty cycle control. The apparent brightness of LEDs is determined by what percentage of time they spend on versus off, which is literally just another way to say their duty cycle. Pulse width modulation in that context is simply a modern means to the end of attaining duty cycle
God, we have a
control,
lifeline.
with the added benefit of high switching frequencies, providing it with some functional advantages.
I know, right?
But since the
But you didn't
simmerstat
stick
is
with your
literally
lifeline.
100-year-old tech, well, there ain't anything modern in here. Yet it absolutely is a fully functional, fully capable duty cycle controller.
I can say
How
the
on
same
earth
thing
could
to
that
you
be?
every time we have a fight,
Well,
and there's like one
let's look
person
inside
left,
the
and
simmerstat
you're
to
just
see what's
never
going
there.
on.
Yep, I'm not there because you weren't
that
with
is
me.
less clear
Exactly
than
my
you think.
point. Thank you for
So
proving my
first,
point.
because I'm gonna
You're
turn
not there. Yeah, I'm
Because we're
not
dealing
there.
with the US
Exactly.
split
No, you're
phase
not
election
there.
system
No.
here.
You're
Yeah,
not.
exactly
You're
my
not even-
point.
you're
That's
not
what I
even
just
here.
told you. You were not with
There are
me.
2 hot wires and no neutral. The heating elements of a cooktop are
No, I'm
wired
talking at the
across
beginning of
line
the
1
games, too,
and line
little-
2,
little bro.
just like any other 200
Oh, I'm sorry. I was
device.
smoking a bowl or something.
You can learn more about that in this video if you'd like. Because of this fact, this device
Oh, you're
has
smoking?
two
Okay, I
switch
actually
contacts in it,
Actually
here and here, so that it can open both sides of the circuit when switched off and completely isolate the heating element from voltage. That makes
I'm just
the
gonna
thermostat
rat and
at
get
its
points
core
at this
a
point.
double pole, single throw switch.
See anything I can
Now, the
crawl up
left
to in the
side
sky?
of the thermostat
No.
doesn't actually matter at all for its power modulation purpose. That's really just an extra isolation point.
There's
for
one
heating
behind
element
me. I
one,
see him.
and it's only
Fuck
ever
that
open
guy.
when the control knob is in the off position.
30 seconds.
In all other positions, it's closed. Oh, and this extra copper piece
I'll let
here
them go chase
is
him
used
down,
to send power out to
hopefully.
a pilot light to indicate that a cooktop burner is switched on. That's why the terminal on the back is labeled P, and why they didn't bother giving it a proper contact surface. It's just sending a tiny little amount of current
Only
to a
10
neon
seconds left.
indicator like this one. You'll notice, though, that the right side of the Simmerstat features a much more robust pair of switch contacts, one of which is attached to a wide copper bar. This is the contact that regularly opens and closes to modulate power output. To hopefully avoid confusion, remember that you only have to break one side of a circuit to kill current flow. When the other switch is closed, but this one is open, the heating element will still have 120 volts potential on it from line 1, but there isn't a complete circuit to line 2 for any power to actually flow through it, except the pilot light. Well, the pilot light is only operating at 120 volts. So that stays on no matter what. I'm very sorry, our power system is weird. Ignore everything on the present. Moving on, if we look at the back side of the copper bar hosting our main switch contact, we'll see something that looks an awful lot like a bimetallic strip. Because it is. These little heroes show up in the darkest places. Why is it in here? Well, this copper bar carries the current flowing through to the cooktop heating element when the switch contact is closed and power is flowing. And there's a small amount of electrical resistance across the copper bar. It's too small to measure with a
There's gotta be. Hey, Mike.
What's up?
Hey, you just did a song. Question.
Yeah.
You know the side disconnect for the on and off? Oh, I just did it. That was weird. I pressed it all the way first. That was weird. So, okay. Then it just kicked back off, didn't it? Oh, it's back now. Never mind, we got it.
All right, cool.
Fucking door switch, man.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, buddy.
All right, cool.
Appreciate it.
Talk to you. Bye.
the multimeter, but it's enough to produce a bit of heat when the 10 or 11 amps drawn by the cooktop burner flows through it. Bimetallic strips deform when they change in temperature, and since there's one attached to this copper bar, which we've just established gets warm when current flows through it, the bimetallic strip will start to bend as that happens. Now, unfortunately, I can't really demonstrate this well in circuit. You'll see why in just a moment. What I can do, though, is use this little heat gun and show you what happens when the support bar warms up. It's pretty subtle, so watch closely. When hot, the copper bar bends such that the bottom switch contact moves deeper into the Simmerstat body and farther away from its partner above. Now, think about what that means. If the copper bar warms up whenever the switch is closed and power is flowing, and that warmth causes the bar to bend such that the switch will open, then the switch does not want to stay closed. Anytime it is closed, it heats up, and the bimetallic strip then tries to open it. In practice, it looks like this. From below, we can't see the switch contacts, but we can see the copper bar moving back and forth ever so slightly. Every time the switch is closed and power flows to the load, the copper bar begins to warm up because of internal resistance. We can see this quite clearly with the thermal camera. As that happens, the bimetallic strip bends the bar such that the lower contact begins moving closer to the camera and away from its partner. Eventually, the strip bends far enough to break the circuit, so current stops flowing. Once it does, though, the bar rapidly begins to cool down. That causes it to reverse course and start moving closer to the other switch contact. Then they actually touch, current can flow again, the bar warms up, and the cycle repeats. And now, let's see if you make a technology connection. I'm using a lamp right now plugged into the simmerstat. And that lamp, because of the simmerstat, is flashing. I've covered a certain other piece of tech which we use to make lamps flash in the past. That piece of tech is put in series with the lamps it's meant to flash. Current flowing through it would cause a switch inside to briefly open, then shut repeatedly. I'm speaking, of course, about the turn signal flasher. These old-school thermal flashers also work thanks to a bimetallic strip. That strip will deform when heated and open or close a switch, depending on the design particulars, which repeatedly applies and removes power to the incandescent lamps, which form the turn signals, to make them flash and thus more noticeable. Now, that behavior is certainly a great deal faster than the pulsing the simmerstat is doing right now, but it's not really any different, is it? It's the same thing, just sped up. And at its core, this simmerstat really is just an overgrown turn signal flasher capable of handling up to 11 amps of current at 2
Oh, there you are
volts
behind me,
or
huh?
2600 watts. But the simmerstat is a flasher with a twist. Literally. The turn signal flasher has a fixed duty cycle and behavior, at least when controlling the same load at the same voltage. But the simmerstat can adjust its duty cycle based on the position of the control knob. Why? And how? You know, in Britain, they call cooktop burners hobs. Does that mean that this is a hobnob? Anyway, when we were looking at this from above, you might have noticed that the switch contacts were nowhere near each other. They're clearly sprung such that they default to the open position. So what closes those switches in the first place? To find out, let's switch to the cam. It's this cam! I don't know how I live with me either. The control knob of the simmerstat is attached via a shaft to this plastic cam, covered in a copious amount of grease. When assembled, the cam presses down on these protrusions once rotated out of the off position, and that is what closes the switch contacts. You'll notice the cam has two sections with different profiles. The inner section presses on and closes the switch on the left of the simmerstat, which remember, doesn't matter, it's just a safety switch. But the outer section, which engages with the bimetallic switch, has a very subtle ramp built into it. Can you see that? This is the off position, which doesn't press on the switch at all, but just to the left of that position, the cam profile gets very tall. That means it presses the switch down quite far. But then there's a fairly steep drop-off before the cam very subtly gets thinner and thinner all the way back to the off position. Can you figure out what that might be? Vote now on your phones. What that varying cam profile actually does as you turn the knob is change the resting position of the two switch contacts in the bimetallic switch. You can see from below that as I turn it, the copper bar and bimetallic strip are moving up and down very slightly. This might seem pretty inconsequential, but that right there is actually the key to this whole device. But explaining why is complicated. I've been stuck on this script for a while, because although this component is incredibly simple, there are three connected concepts all working together here to make this what it is. And that makes it hard to explain without getting stuck in a loop. But I'll try. Let's revisit that footage from earlier. Here, the simmerstat was set to medium, and I let it stabilize. In this condition, the switch is closed for about 5 seconds before it opens, and then it stays open for about 5 seconds, and this repeats. That's how we get a 50% duty cycle. But why precisely is the switch opening and closing with such predictability? To find out, let's look at the thermal camera. You'll notice that at this setting, the contact support bar seems to peak right near 100 degrees Celsius. Then the temperature begins to fall. We then see that it consistently bottoms out right near 78 degrees Celsius, and it begins to rise again. This tells us that the switch is actually opening and closing based upon the temperature of the support bar and its bimetallic strip. Simple enough, but why though?
Why is the circuit opening and closing at those specific temperatures? Well, that's because of this cam and how far it's pushing down on the top switch contact. Remember that the bottom switch contact retreats into the body of the simmer stack as it warms up. How far that contact actually moves is a function of the temperature of the bimetallic strip in the support bar. And through the position of the cam and its profile, we have chosen to place the top switch contact at some specific point along that deflection path. In this position, the contacts are forced to stay together until the copper bar has reached 100 degrees Celsius. At that precise temperature, the deflection of the bar is sufficient to open the switch. So really, the core function of this device...
How many are there up there?
Just run away. Just run away. Just run away.
Turning the
Just run away.
knob, we're deciding how hot we want to allow that copper bar to get before it switches.
That's my bad.
off
I didn't realize
the
that
top burner.
you were stuck far away.
So the last
went to
piece
push.
of the puzzle is how that
Just,
choice
practice.
becomes a
We're being killing.
consistent duty cycle. Because remember, the goal of this device is not to maintain a specific temperature like the thermostat in an oven, but to maintain a specific duty cycle and thus power output for the cooktop burners. Yet somehow, we're doing that with what is ostensibly a thermostat. Well, here's where I hope it all comes together. Remember that the copper bar inside here is both a thermostatic switch and a heater. Whenever the switch is closed, it dissipates a consistent amount of power, and that generates a consistent amount of heat within the bar. And like all heat-producing things, with a consistent power output, how hot it actually gets, and thus how far the bar will deflect, is a function of how long that heater runs in a given period. And now physics becomes our friend. Let's say I change the knob's position to that of medium-high. What that will actually do is press down farther on the top switch contact to force those two contacts to remain together until the lower support bar has reached...
They're trying to stay on the upper ridge.
So, let's do this. The temperature of the bar, since power is now flowing through it, is climbing. But you'll notice that the rate of change in temperature is slowing down as it continues to increase. What's happening here is the result of the fact that the bar is approaching the limit to how hot it can possibly become before the heat it gains through its internal resistance matches the heat that leaves through radiation to the air surrounding it. And as we approach that limit, heat gain slows significantly. This means that it will take longer to reach the new target temperature of 130 degrees, which in turn means that the switch contacts will stay closed for a longer period of time before they open again. And adding to that, the temperature differential between the bar and the air around it is greater.
Why is something going to land right in the lava? Who the fuck?
Being heated, it's going to lose heat energy faster than it did before. That shortens the time that the switch spends open before it closes again. Though that effect is minor compared to the stretching of the on time. But what about going in the other direction? What happens when you turn the knob to medium low? Well, with the knob at the 9 o'clock position, the cam is only very slightly pushing on the switch. It's pushing so gently that the bar only needs to hit about 60 degrees Celsius before it bends enough to open the switch. Since that's much closer to ambient temperature than 130 or even just 100 degrees, it takes a very short time for it to reach that temperature when being heated by the current passing through. And you'll notice that the switch only closes again when the bar drops to about 40 degrees Celsius. But it takes quite a while for the bar to cool to that temperature, so the pulses it sends out are both short and infrequent. Do you see how this all fits together? We are really controlling this circuit based on the temperature of the heater inside of it. When calibrated correctly, that can be used as a duty cycle controller, because to get that heater hotter, the heater itself must run a longer duty cycle. So its average temperature becomes an effective proxy for the duty cycle necessary to attain that temperature. And that's incredibly fortuitous. Just calibrate the bimetallic bar to dissipate.
Wrong way, turn left.
Current,
200 degrees, and then go through the turn right. There you go. Right, turn the right. There you go. Out that door. Oh my God, you're going the wrong way.
Produce any duty cycle you need with incredibly crude technology. But it gets even better.
He doesn't know his direction,
because the
buddy.
switching
He's
action
dyslexic
occurs
and
based on the
retarded. I'm
temperature
sorry.
of the bimetallic strip. There's a really helpful memory.
That's no excuse. And it's 2024. We don't use those
It's
rules.
2024, dude. You gotta, you're microaggressing him right now.
You're microaggressing me.
W Gaming sub up. Maybe we can run a few.
You are culturally appropriating his offensiveness. I think you should let him speak for himself instead of trying to speak up for him, you white knight bitch.
He's mute. His voice box broke.
I don't give a fuck. He still has fingers enough to type on the keyboard. You don't need to do everything for him.
Shut the fuck up, Jesus Christ.
Oh yeah, I have a lisp. What the fuck's wrong with you? Are you dumb?
Dude, why are you being such a dick? I'm trying to be nice the whole time.
How are you? How is that being nice?
I was nice earlier when you were fucking high as shit in La La Land doing nothing, helping the
All
team.
the way up to 130 degrees
What?
before it switches the elements off.
I got you up.
Yeah, because you were fucking a mile away doing nothing. Brother, you're lost.
You're lost. You're lost. You ran away from your friend. So
You gave me an extra chromosome. You're lost.
is that like you think that's a weird verbal fucking flex, bro?
I noticed this behavior of my glass top stove and assumed that this was being accomplished with logic, but nope. That's just how this works. Now, I've left something important out. You might wonder how the simmerstat can keep the element on at full power when it's set too high. Well, that's what that really high point on the cam profile was for. That just really jams that switch down so it'll never open no matter how hot the bar inside is getting. Pretty crude, huh? Except the crudeness doesn't stop there. This particular simmerstat only works correctly with fairly large heating elements that draw the 8.9 to 11 amps it's rated for. That's because how quickly the copper bar heats up depends on how much current passes through it. If you try and control a load outside of that range, things get out of whack. Through sheer dumb luck, this 1100 watt hot plate draws about 9 amps at 120 volts. So this simmerstat works correctly with it. The hot plate has been my mystery load throughout the video. But if I plug in this smaller hot plate, which only draws 900 watts, the duty cycles this is meant to produce get all out of whack. And with a load much smaller than that, it never interrupts power. You might also have noticed that the way this switches the load is terrible. Switches ideally should have a snap action to reduce arcing when they break electrical loads. This fella just doesn't. The contacts barely move despite switching 10 amps. So some fairly nasty arcing occasionally happens. It's not too bad because these are just used to switch resistive loads. And the overextension of the switch as the cam presses down produces a wiping effect that helps to clean the contacts of carbon debris. Incidentally, that also happens inside the switches of an electromechanical pinball machine. And yes, part 3 is coming. I haven't forgotten about it. Hold your horses. I just thought a script like this one would be faster. Why did I think that? I don't know. It never works. Anyway, before I end this video, I want to make sure I say that not all simmerstats are going to function exactly like these ones do. For instance, stats on my stove, 3 of the 4 can't possibly use the current because they have selectable size elements. One even has 3 sizes. I suspect the core functionality of this is exactly the same as the simple one. Probably a dedicated resistor with the only path neutral, producing the heat for the bimetallic. That was the heat cycle, regardless of how you control at a particular time. I also think it might be controlling the resistor. Another possibility, the knob could actually be controlling a variable resistor, producing differing amounts of heat to open the limit switch. I kind of think that might be the case because these have a definite click as they cycle on and off, which this basic model doesn't. That's just a guess though. I'm not tearing this apart. I need it. And by the way, I built this box for this video, but I've been wanting to build something like it for quite a while, specifically because of these cheap options. If you've ever used one, you might have noticed that it's impossible to control. That's because this knob is not controlling a simmerstat, it's just a plain old thermostat. Notice it only clicks on when you're well away from the off position. You can kind of make this work for what you need, but it's incredibly hard because you don't even know where it's measuring the temperature, and it's going to change based on whatever cookware you're using. It's a bit easier to control this style of hot plate where the heating element is embedded in a metal disc and its average temperature kind of means something, but this coil style is flat out impossible to control with a thermostat. I'm sure it's just a lot cheaper than a proper simmerstat. I mean, these things are like 15 bucks. But it's incredibly annoying and makes these pretty much only useful for boiling water. I thought I was going to end up building like an Arduino-based controller or something, but it turns out you can just stick a simmerstat in a handy box and be done. I added the lights because it pleases me. The red one is the pilot light and the yellow one indicates power is flowing. I will not show you how I made that work. And a final point, it could be argued that we really shouldn't be using these anymore. I mean, if you get an induction stove, it's not going to have them. But don't get me started on the touch controls those often have. Hey, note to appliance designers, nobody wants that. Just use knobs. Touch controls on a stove would be like taking away a car's turn signal stalks and forcing people to adapt to weird buttons for no good reason at all. Anyway, what I mean by that is the simmerstat works great with coil-top stoves since these heating elements retain so much heat. But with glass tops, where radiant heat is transmitted right through immediately, the switching frequency is arguably too slow. I don't often notice this, and to be honest, I'm not sure it actually matters. But when I'm frying up some veggies in a thinner piece of cookware, I can tell when the element is running and when it's not. The sizzling gets a little louder whenever it's on, and if there's any water in the bottom of the pan, it bubbles more vigorously. Again, I'm honestly unsure of how much that actually matters, but I'm not a good enough cook to pretend my opinion's any good. Anyway, with modern, high-power, solid-state switching components, cooktop burners could in theory be controlled with as much finesse as a dimmer switch provides. That would cost more, of course, but at this point, I'm not sure how much it would. I mean, induction stoves have some wild power switching circuitry in them, and they're not very expensive anymore.
God,
Now, the main thing I'd be worried about in this hypothetical
when Maggie
is
says jump,
actually
you
noise.
say down whose
These
throat?
fellas make a fairly noticeable humming when they're switched on, and adding some high-frequency switching to that mix could turn that hum into a weird ring. But hey, even just like a 1 hertz switching frequency would be a huge improvement over the simmerstats in my stove at home. Something to think about. Okay, well, that's it, I think. Didn't imagine this script would get so out of hand. I mean, it's literally just a bimetallic strip in a box with a knob. But at this point, I don't know why I'm surprised. Here, how about we get a taste of November in April? I think I'm gonna make something actually simple before the month is out. Can I rise to the challenge? Find out on the next whenever it happens. Bye. I'll plug in a lamp to make what it's doing obvious in addition to the However, the interruption is pretty brief. Eventually, power returns. This is going to be harder to time than I thought it was going to be. Once you reach the medium setting, now, oh right, that's what's supposed to happen. These periodic interruptions will repeat indefinitely, but as you continue to control the turn knob further clockwise, earlier I said these modulate the power output of the cooktop burners. That was loud. But to maintain a
I leveled up and earned an upgrade too. Got an upgrade, gonna put it to use.
Astrophysicists say that 95% of the matter-energy content of the universe is dark stuff, either dark matter or dark energy. It's supposedly all around us, but we can't see, feel, or hear it. Shut up!
Where you shooting?
I'm not particularly excited about most of the experiments looking for this dark stuff, but a few days ago I read about a new one that actually makes
Got him.
sense. Let's have a look. So this new proposal comes from a team of NASA researchers, and they're suggesting to use 4 small spacecraft that fly around in the solar system in the configuration of a tetrahedron. The idea is fairly simple. They want to very precisely measure the distances between the spacecraft to look for deviations from Einstein's theory of gravity right here around us. This makes a lot of sense because, you see, we know from observations that this dark stuff makes itself noticeable on large distances. Galaxies, galaxy clusters, the expansion of the entire universe, whether it's really some sort of stuff or whether we have got something wrong with the law of gravity. The differences happen only at large distances, and for some reason we can't detect it on our planet. But somehow these two things have to fit together. So nature must interpolate between this local Einsteinian gravity and whatever's going on.
Oh, you guys want to push those guys, or what are you doing?
This means that there should be an effect in the solar system. It's just that it's so small that it's hard to measure. This is why precision tests of gravity in the solar system make a lot of sense. If you look at the explanations that have been proposed for dark energy or dark matter, like modified gravity, they all need some sort of interpolation between galactic and Earth scales. They have a mechanism that makes those effects go away close by the sun, but they never entirely shut down. Modified Newtonian dynamics is somewhat awkward, in that it doesn't tell you exactly how the modification shuts down, it just has an arbitrary interpolation. But there are other ideas, for example, muon fields that can help dark energy. They have a shielding mechanism that suppresses these fields near heavy objects like our planet or the sun. But they don't go away, so you can measure them if you measure precisely enough. And how? Before we talk about big space out there, let's talk about your space. With the Galaxy Projector, you can turn any room into a special place. It creates a colorful display of stars and nebulae, and I found it to be both relaxing and inspiring. And not only that, it's also a smart device. Let's look at some of the features. First off, its RGB colors, brightness, precision speed,
I'm leaving then. I'm not. You're getting pinned from the other side.
And no need to get out of bed. You can do it all from your phone. Better still, you can use voice commands with Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant. The Galaxy Projector also comes with a selection of color themes that you can choose from. And there's no need to worry about your electricity bill. This device is super energy efficient. The Galaxy Projector is a neat modern device with solid hardware and software, and it's just what science lovers like me, and maybe you too, need to chill. If that sounds good, make sure to get our special offer by clicking the link below and using the discount code ZABINE to get 15% off. Let's then talk a little more about this new proposal. Why do you need 4 spacecraft? It's because if you have only 3, there's always a plane that goes through them. If you have 4, that's a really 3-dimensional configuration. What you do then is that you precisely track the distances between the spacecraft by pinging back and forth the laser signals. This also allows you to measure the relative velocities. And from the changes in the distances and velocities between the spacecraft and their relation to the distance to heavy objects, mostly the sun, you can then infer whether the law of gravity is as Einstein said or has subtle deviations. Albert thinks that's a really cute idea. This type of experiment will not detect dark matter, at least not in the most common versions, but it could pick up some type of superfluid dark matter, which I've worked on for some time. This isn't mentioned in the paper, but the superfluid dark matter also has a kind of screening mechanism, which is that the superfluidity must go away near heavy objects. The idea is that this happens because the gravitational pressure gets too large. So in this model too, you must have a crossover somewhere. This is why I think this experiment is a really good idea, because it looks for a generic effect. Does gravity in our solar system depend on the distance to the sun as we expect? We know that there can't be any large deviations, because otherwise the orbits of planets would be weird. But this experiment can look for subtle, small variations. I think this is more promising than pretty much all of the dark matter experiments that are popping up left and right these days. I could talk about a new dark matter experiment every day if I wanted to. Like physicists are using dark matter detectors now. DNA, rocks, quantum computers. I'm about to write a paper claiming that my phone is a dark matter detector. You see, if a gravitino comes by, the phone That's the negative results, which will make for very interesting new bounds on gravitino phone calls.
Good work, you got that.
The Santos MX
Craft.
says,
Oh,
nice.
do that, yep.
See you tomorrow.
Good work. We've got no time, but we got time enough to maybe get in and run.
We're outside the ring. Move, unless you want to get barbecue.
I'll jump up on my lap as soon as I crouch down.
So Nico is a foster failure, and he was just a constant in my life. I mean, I got the tattoo of his little paw on my chest.
Don't try intercepting something at Mach 1.
Now Nico, he has dubbed me his mother.
Oh, EVAC tower there.
I just buy food.
Whenever it's time for us to take a walk, Glenn can grab that leash. Glenn can crouch down and try to get him on his lap. Okay, I'll thank you. He'll always just come to me. He just follows me around everywhere.
My friend Ariel told me recently that her boyfriend's dog is totally obsessed with her, so I decided I would pay a visit and check out this dynamic up close in person. And of course, surprise her with a little gift from the dodo. Hey!
He prefers women. I apologize for him.
So you think it's not just Glenn? It's...
I actually get away with quite a lot.
You don't like the dude so much?
Okay.
Baby. I got it.
So he has his own little side of the bed.
Floor, Princess Pillow, we call him.
When he goes to sleep, he has my bed on his side of the bed. And he won't sleep I've always loved working with kids, but I never envisioned myself as a mom. And now I am a mom, and I have a child, but it's a Chihuahua. I always feed him first before I cannot be comfortable until he's comfortable.
So I hear you're going away for a little bit, and you're going to be...
Single mom for 5 weeks for the first time.
Well, since we've become such people, we decided to give you a present, see if this is something that would help out. It is a doggy baby Bjorn.
Okay. He goes where?
Where does he go?
My intelligence should not be underestimated.
Oh my god. I have hands. This is the best day ever. That's a real bird. I am also a mother. We are the same. We're just going to get some coffee.
Are you having trouble sharing your umbrella with your partner?
This is so perfect.
Glenn, are you getting over
That's fine, I'll get over it.
Oh no, it's fine. We're packing. Get it.
Everybody in. The windows are the
Now here's a tough test. What is this?
You see a dog in the image. It appears to be a fluffy, long-haired Chihuahua, or similar small dog.
specific.
Dog is sitting on one
Very
leg
specific.
or lamp
That's exactly what she is, though, a long-haired chihuahua.
That's exactly what she is, Jack says. That is a long-haired chihuahua by the name of Marissa. So in this box is one of the very first Rabbit R1 AI smart devices. I am curious to try this out. I remember when it was announced, obviously I watched the keynote, I saw the different voice-based instructions and behaviors of the device, and I also saw industrial design, which in this case kind of has cool retro look to it, patch and a pin, very small. AI companion. One piece of dense foam and actually very cool packaging, quite futuristic. Wow, that orange is extremely vibrant. I mean, you almost feel like you do not want to throw this out. The speaker, the scroll wheel, the rabbit eye, very unique hardware. You have Type-C. See it booting up. What's fun about this is it does remind me of a different era in tech where everything wasn't a smartphone, where there were different devices that did different things and had different form factors. The wheel is not clicky, it's very smooth, but it has some weight to it. It has a little bit of resistance. All right, so it's asking for me to go to rabbit.tech in order to activate this device. I'm gonna go do that and we'll come back and start testing this thing out. All right, so I have the device booted up now, and it is important to note at this point that this is very early days. In fact, I think I'm in possession of the first unit at this point that I'm filming this. Even in the time that I've had this, it's had multiple updates. Things will change, and it's obviously part of a long and ongoing project in order to deliver the full breadth of what this technology will eventually be capable of. So the intended use here is voice. Essentially an assistant. Give you responses to questions, utilize its built-in camera to identify things, and eventually figure out a way to integrate with a variety of different applications that you use on a regular basis. Some of the connections that exist at this point: DoorDash, Midjourney, Spotify, and Uber. I'll give you a quick example of how that works. Play Daft Punk on Spotify.
On it, I'll get the music going for you.
Now, obviously, I can't play too much of that for copyright reasons, album artwork. So that's an example of an integration that currently exists, but you could imagine that expanding to a variety of other things. But let's just start out a little bit more simple and ask a couple of questions. Who are the Toronto Maple Leafs?
The Toronto Maple Leafs are a professional ice hockey team based in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. The team was established in 1917 and is one of the original 6
Where are they?
of the NHL.
Now, the next thing I'm going to do is speak to the assistant without context in order to follow up on the previous question. Who is the best player?
Battery critical.
Pretty impressive. It's very detailed to the extent that you're not getting.
How'd that guy get up here? What the fuck?
Software you probably have on your phone. This is not an assistant that's triggered via voice. Instead, it's all via this mechanical button. Now, to get into the interface, I shake. I end up with this menu, options for brightness, which I can hold and adjust in this manner. It's an interesting interface, and if you're familiar with Teenage Engineering designed products, it's kind of familiar. So if I want to change the volume of the voice, I hold and scroll. It's a 2-stage situation. I have it at max right now. You do actually have a screen-based input by flipping the device like this, and here you can see a keyboard that pops up. We flip it the other way and we snap back. The other cool thing there is the continual language, not having to reiterate the previous question, but being able to just build on it, like the 3 consecutive Toronto Maple Leafs questions, and it will remember it even right now. Who had the most goals this season?
The player who scored the most goals for the Toronto Maple Leafs in the current season is Austin Matthews. He has been a key goal scorer for the team and has consistently performed at a high level throughout the season.
You can actually hear the memory of the device by tapping this button 5 times. Now, the other interesting thing that's on here is this camera, or what they're calling. So if I double tap this button, I get vision, and I'm going to bring over a couple of objects. This is a pretty easy one. What am I looking at?
Wilson NBA basketball. The basketball has the Wilson logo and branding prominently displayed on it, as well as the NBA logo, indicating that this is an official NBA basketball.
What am I looking at?
You are looking at a potted plant with green grass-like leaves in a gray pot on a wooden table. In the background, there is a person wearing a gray shirt and a desk setup with computer monitors.
It's the detail. It's actually almost like unexpected detail. I can even take some text that's on my phone, read this out loud.
Taking a look now, Frank Macaulay is deeply proud of his Italian roots. Macaulay established a home and business in Woodbridge, Ontario, a short drive from Toronto, and his commercial plumbing operation soon provided him with financial success, with equally desirable motorcycles.
I mean, it'll go on. Like, that is a relatively fast reading and conversion of an article on a phone. Now here's a tough test. What is this?
Taking a look now, I see a dog in the image. It appears to be a fluffy, long-haired Chihuahua, or similar small dog.
Very specific.
The dog is sitting on what
Very
looks
specific.
like a wooden or laminate floor.
Marissa, the long-haired Chihuahua, R1 was able to identify that. What should I do if I'm looking for a fun activity on a Saturday night in the Toronto area?
Fun activities to do on a Saturday night in the Toronto area include testing your limits at CN Towers Edgewalk, enjoying a rooftop cocktail at the Drake Hotel, exploring the Scarborough Bluffs, singing karaoke at a bar, stopping to smell the flowers at Allen Gardens.
And speed is going to be key here in order to have widespread adoption. It's going to have fast, feel comfortable, and casual. And that's sort of what that response was. Now, is there a way that I can follow up on that? I need to do something cheap, not expensive.
For budget-friendly options on a Saturday night in the Toronto area, you can consider having a picnic at Trinity Bellwoods Park, exploring the Distillery District, attending a
Mo's just sitting over there nodding right now. Because, you see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Some of these things are free. Mo didn't realize by moving his desk, now he's this guy. Now he's always available. Maybe that's what he was going for. Hey, those first few things sounded kind of expensive. Can you give me a cheap option? It went and found like 5 of them. It's very fun to experiment with. I know a lot of people are going to have a lot of ideas and opinions, what kind of place it's going to hold, because you have a phone. And this is kind of a different style of interaction, but a lot of the tasks end up being similar things to what you do on your phone, but just differently and more conversational. Now, me, I'm an early adopter, so if I see this thing and I'm sort of willing to go on that ride and recognize that it's not going to be everything today that it can hopefully be eventually. But I personally was very, very excited about interfaces that are mostly voice-based and require less screen time, essentially less time where you're captivated by your display and more time that you're sort of looking around and interacting with the world. Voice presents that opportunity, and AI assistants are the way in which we get there. So those subtle differences in approach, the understanding of context, conversational component, that will be the key for my personal usage and I think eventually widespread adoption. Now, the next way to sort of supercharge your assistant is via something called LAM, which is being integrated into this device. That's large action models, which is different than language models. This is the ability to sort of dictate an eventual action that your AI assistant will take. So this OS is powered by 2 types of AI models, large language models and large action models. The language model is responsible for understanding what you're saying, and then obviously the action model is responsible for the action that takes place. So that's sort of the ultimate AI experience, and I think it is the more difficult and ambitious aspect, is how do you go from having an assistant that is strictly language-based and towards actually executing tasks on your behalf. So I watched the keynote just like you did. I saw some of these activities like booking vacations and ordering food from DoorDash, and these are comprehensive tasks, and we can see a million ways in which these could be overly complex. And I do think that they will be difficult to implement, but they will be sort of beta or early phase, considering they represent this new type of AI interaction. So the other thing that came up in our discussions here at the studio is just like, why does this exist? Why do we have this bright orange square? Nice looking square and a cool unboxing experience, and it's pretty much anything teenage engineering goes near is beautiful to interact with. But why do we need something physical? Why do we have to have some physical hardware instead of just an application, say, on a smartphone? It's hard to get people excited about something that's strictly software based. If you look at all the thumbnails and all the hype surrounding this particular device, this bright orange block has gotten people interested in a new method for interaction. What the hardware represents is an opportunity to get people excited in a new input method, which is no longer touch-based and no longer app-based. Is this thing still a relatively fringe tech experiment? Yes, in some ways, yes. But for those people that are early adopters like myself, or interested in trying new technology and maybe possibly changing the way they interact, it could be an interesting and exciting piece of hardware. Now, the other thing worth talking about is price. There are some other devices that compete with this one that launched at much higher prices. They're coming in at $199, and sure, you can get a full-blown smartphone for $199. I don't think this fills the same space, targeted at people who want to play with something new and enjoy the idea of experimenting with a new platform, with a new interface, after however many years we've spent with kind of a singular approach to computing, which is the touchscreen-based smartphone. I think anybody who's interested in purchasing this already has a smartphone and understands, to a certain extent, what they're getting into. An early step towards our eventual computing future. You have to admit it's pretty. You have to admit.
Backpack here. Level 2.
Today we're going to talk about the Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite and X Plus, the two chips that should have Intel, maybe, running scared. Hi everyone, it's Mark Thompson here from PC World, and I'm here with Kedar Kandap, the Senior Vice President and General Manager for the Computer and Gaming Division of Qualcomm. So today we're going to talk about the Snapdragon X Elite. What I wanted to do was first just start out with talking about the terminology. So we talked about Snapdragon X, Snapdragon X Elite, Orion. Can you just tell us what those terms mean?
Thanks again, Mark. Sure. Thanks for having me here. I think maybe just to characterize what all of these different terms mean. Snapdragon X Elite is our premium platform for notebooks. The X Plus is a new platform that we're using now with the expand the
Bro, I gotta run.
And make all of the goodness that we have.
I'm gonna die in that. I'm dead.
And more specifically, your question on Orion. Qualcomm Orion is the CPU core that is used in both the Snapdragon X Elite as well as the Snapdragon X Plus.
So is it fair to say that Snapdragon X Elite is the premium solution and the Snapdragon X Plus is more value?
I'd say high-end.
High-end, okay.
More high-end,
Okay. All right,
definitely.
fine. You know, when we talk about ARM, historically, you know, we've had this sort of big little architecture. We've had performance cores, and we've had efficiency cores. The performance cores being devoted to high-end, you know, intensive workloads. Efficiency being done for background work and so forth. You guys haven't taken that approach with the Snapdragon X Elite. Why not?
You know, Mark, we look at the architecture every time we come up with a new platform. And just to put things in perspective, the Qualcomm Orion CPU is a custom CPU that we've designed in-house. It's a ground-up design for us. And we're very confident of being able to deliver, as you saw some of the numbers, with respect to performance as well as the power, to be able to deliver the right experience when it comes to battery life, and at the end of the day, make sure that we maintain a performance for what leadership we want. So we have all of the tools necessary. We have all the software algorithms to be able to more effectively manage all of the symmetric cores, if you will, and provide the necessary battery life that we are hoping to provide to our consumers.
Well, I mean, you certainly can't argue with the performance numbers. Battery life, give us a ballpark what you would expect in terms of battery life. I know it's dependent upon a number of factors, but, you know,
It depends. Like, if you look at some use cases, for example, let's take a very common use case that we're all used to, which is video calls, say a Teams call, and let's say it's a 3x3 Teams call. You should expect up to 2x, right?
Okay.
So
2x what?
2x battery life.
Okay, versus
2x versus competition.
Got it.
Versus an x86 competitor.
Sure.
And so it just depends on if you look at YouTube, if you look at browsing, or if you look at any of these use cases. The numbers can vary, but like I said, yeah, it's more than 50% in some cases, and it just varies depending on the use case. But very impressive experiences that consumers will be able to see with this, with both the Elite and the Plus.
Well, historically, when we've talked about the earlier Qualcomm Snapdragon chips, I'm thinking about the 8 series, the 8.6, and so forth. We've talked about, and again, it depends upon the OEM, it depends upon the size of the battery and so forth, the workloads. But we've talked about, I think of those machines, those historical machines, as 12, 16, maybe close to 24 hours of battery life. Is that's the ballpark, or at least maybe even the baseline
for sure is the baseline.
Okay.
I think as what's going to change now and what's going to get even more fun is the next-gen AI experiences that are going to be driven off of these platforms. So
we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, so I think it's just going to get, I think it's fair to assume that that is a baseline. We come from that legacy with respect to making sure that power is top of mind for us when we design the architecture of all of these platforms. So yeah, I think it's fair to assume you should expect some pretty incredible battery life numbers.
Excellent. Well, I wanted to just make sure that we point out the I guess we call it the elephant in the room, I don't know. This is a Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite reference design. You guys have been using those, dogfooding those for months now, is that right?
Yeah, we're all using them internally. This is one of my machines as well. We use them every day as our workhorse machines internally.
And one of the things
Who the fuck is that girl?
One of the most powerful people in America seems to think that inequality doesn't exist.
What's the difference between a billionaire and a guy who's making $100,000 a year? They're both at home watching Netflix, and they're both on their iPhones, and they're both, listening to the same music. The disparity between how rich people live and how poor people live in America has never been smaller.
Jeff Yass is a mega billionaire. He's the richest man in Pennsylvania. And he likely pays a smaller percentage in income taxes than you do.
We're almost at a point in America that everybody has all the stuff they need. No one's hungry, no one's cold, no one doesn't have some basic health insurance. No one doesn't have some basic health insurance.
Yass makes his money by squeezing a cut out of the everyday functioning of the stock market, profiting off not only his own speculation, but everyone else's too. And his methods for saving on his tax bill and his entire business are legally questionable. And he uses the money he saves to exert influence over our tax code.
Since last year, the Moderate PAC has raised just over $1 million, all of it from a single donor, billionaire and co-founder of affiliate investment firm Jeff Yass.
Yas is a billionaire investor in ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, and Trump is seeking his support in the presidential race.
He's one of the highest spending political donors of the past decade, spending millions over the past few elections bolstering right-wing candidates.
Let's land
And
over
this
there.
year, he's donating even more. He's going to be the highest spending political donor of the 2024 cycle. Yeah, a guy most Americans have never heard of is exerting more control over our future than any other single individual. So we need to look hard at how Jeffrey Yas got rich, what Yas wants, and how he plans to get it. People often derisively compare trading in the stock market to gambling, but Jeff Yas wouldn't take that as an insult.
We think the analogy between being a poker player and a trader, the same kind of decision-making theory, is very similar.
At SUNY Binghamton, where he went to college, Yas was a big-time gambler. Yas was really into the math, truly trying to figure out guaranteed wins, and he applied that to his work in investing. His math and gambling.
You guys want to jump the railing or stay here and fight?
By David Sklansky. Yas liked the book so much that later on, when he was in finance, he offered the author a job at his firm. Sklansky declined, but noted of Yas, he doesn't enjoy taking chances, but he does enjoy taking advantage of opportunities. He likes to gamble and odds are in his favor. Yas and his friends combined gambling and finance in the 80s. One associate said of the similarity with investing, quote, "We did well. Basically, we know how to do it, end quote. That ignores one major difference between gambling and investing. A poker hand, let's like an investable asset, like a
1, 2, 3, gone.
doesn't represent millions.
Goodbye.
It doesn't represent access to medicine or food. In gambling, the winners and losers are only winning or losing for themselves. In investing, the wins are tied to losses of people who didn't even know they were playing. He likes to gamble when the odds are in his.
The same kind of decision-making theory is very similar.
At SUNY Binghamton, where he went to college, Yas was a big-time gambler. Yas was really into the math of gambling, truly trying to figure out guaranteed wins, and he applied that to his work in investing. His math and gambling Bible was a book called Getting the Best of It by David Sklansky. Yas liked the book so much that later on, when he was in finance, he offered the author a job at his firm. Sklansky declined, but noted of Yas, he doesn't enjoy taking chances, but he does enjoy taking advantage of opportunities. He likes to gamble when the odds are in his favor. Yas and his friends combined gambling and finance through the 80s. One associate said of the similarity with investing, quote, "We did well. Basically, if you know how to gamble, you can do it," end quote. That ignores one major difference between gambling and investing. A poker hand or roulette spin, unlike an investable asset like a company or a commodity, doesn't represent millions of jobs. It doesn't represent access to medicine or food. In gambling, the winners and losers are only winning or losing for themselves. In investing, the wins are tied to losses of people who didn't even know they were playing. The workers at the companies being bet on, renters trying to find an affordable home, and people who participate in the economy at all. In 1987, Yas and some of those same friends applied their knowledge from gambling and trading and founded Susquehanna International Group.
Susquehanna itself is the pioneers in options trading. And options trading is all about sort of estimating volatility edge. How did you guys look to recruit out your team? What were the things, the attributes you looked for?
Before you become a trader at Susquehanna, you learn how to play poker. So we have a couple of months training in poker.
More than regular trading, options are all about gambling. And options traders can make exponentially more money than people just buying normal stocks because they can wager a much smaller amount, ostensibly betting the stock will go up or down without owning it. An options trader buying calls isn't actually buying the stock in question, but rather the right to buy that stock at a certain low price. So if the stock goes down, they only lose the cost of the option. If it goes up, they can buy it cheaply and make a ton of money. A put is similar, but with the right to sell the share in a certain price, even if it goes way down. But they can just continue to hold it and again only lose the price of the option.
all of playing poker, all of options trading is making sure you're betting against someone you're smarter than.
The same year Susquehanna opened, Yas made his first long shot.
Oh my God, you're back with me.
One based on the value of the 100 top stocks.
1, 2, 3, gone.
Puts on that option were incredibly cheap and
real scrappy.
What are you saying?
Hell yeah!
How come you're not live right now?
I'll need to be live.
I don't see you. I went to Twitch. You're not there.
I'm not live right now.
Tell me something I don't know. Why'd you drop me here? Oh my God, what's happening?
Ammo!
Ooh, don't talk to me like that.
Up here?
I only have a Mozambique. This is not good. Someone's dropping on you. 1, 2, 3. Yep, right there. Oh, I'm down too. That was not a good round.
Hold on. Let me focus.
You're mad at me?
Bought them up. The same year,
they called it Black Monday. By 4 p.m., the market had dropped 508 points, the biggest plummet since the crash of '29.
Susquehanna made millions of dollars on Yas's debt. Of course, other people suffered, and the crash was largely blamed on options trading. And Susquehanna was one of the biggest options traders. Beyond their own trades, Susquehanna also works as a market maker. Which, at risk of sounding conspiratorial, but this is pretty much true, are the people who control the stock market. Market makers like Susquehanna, Citadel Securities, and Jane Street are where most stock trades go through, even if you use Robinhood or any other retail trading platform. That means they have more information than anyone else, control the availability of shares, and influence prices. To bring back the investing is gambling metaphor, Yas and his company aren't just the gamblers, they're also the casino, the house. And the house always wins, right?
The house always wins. Care package over there. Play long enough, you never change the stakes. The house takes you.
Been practicing your speech, haven't you?
A little bit. Did I rush it? Felt like I rushed it.
No, it was good. I liked it.
Yas and Susquehanna's wealth grew incredibly fast. ProPublica reporting shows that by 1996, Yas made $71 million. By 2005, he made at least $1 billion in income. It's not just Yas. For most of the 2010s, the heads of market-making firms were among the top earners in America. The people with most control of the market made the most money. What a coincidence. And then, another financial crisis, 2008. Again, financial speculation is largely to blame. And while Susquehanna did lose money in the crisis, Yas himself lost nearly $500 million, everything turned out all right for him. And because Yas personally reported losses, he was even able to get a $2,000 child tax credit on his personal taxes. All of that public assistance, the portion of the bailout and the TK ending up with Yas is ironic, considering his main political purpose, deep-seated libertarianism, hatred of government growth, and most of all, total aversion to taxation. Yas only pays 19% in income taxes. That's far less than most Americans, but also far less than his peers, those other guys making billions of dollars. So how does he do it? I spoke with Jesse Eisenberg at ProPublica.
My colleagues and I obtained his taxes, and we found something
profoundly newsworthy. So what he's doing basically, he's using a technique to transform short-term capital gains into long-term gains, and long-term gains are taxed at a much, much lower rate, 15%.
Short-term market gains are taxed at a higher rate than long-term gains. So Susquehanna will, according to ProPublica reporting, make two bets that should move in opposite directions, and then when it's about to become a long-term investment, sell the one that's down. Then a day later, sell the one that's up. That obviously makes no money. They generate two valuable commodities: short-term losses and long-term gains.
You can see that he's got a partnership, an entity, that always produces losses. For a wealthy person, losses are actually something you can use to offset gains into much more lucrative kinds of gains that are taxed at a lower rate. Experts have said to us, this is something that should not work.
Yas tries to claim that he shouldn't have to pay taxes because income inequality doesn't exist, and people like him are actually helping.
The left came up with this idea of income inequality. It's like, what are you talking about? It's just the opposite. Only capitalism will mop up those last billion people so they can live healthy lives. And it's not going to be good intentions. It's going to be people trying to make money.
It enlightens what Yas does with all that money he's saving. Because he does kind of give it away to politicians dedicated to protecting his own financial interests. He's one of the two biggest funders of the Club for Growth, an extremist pro-business interest group. Think the girls back, pro-worker, pro-corporate, to be clear, when we say anti-tax, we mean anti-tax for billionaires and big business. In their ideal plans, your taxes will stay the same or go up. This election cycle, Yas is basically the sole funder of the Moderate PAC, a political spending group focused on donating to Democrats, which seems weird, right? But let's look closer. They're focused on spending in primaries where there's a progressive candidate and a centrist candidate. In Yas's home state of Pennsylvania, they focused on attacking Representative Summer Lee, who has a 100% pro-worker rating from the AFL-CIO.
Summer Lee has a different agenda, an extreme socialist one, defunding the police, attacking President Biden.
She was the only representative in Western Pennsylvania to vote against a Republican-led debt ceiling bill that cut funding to the IRS in a way that made it easier for the rich to evade taxes, cut corporate environmental regulations, and made it harder for low-income people to get food.
She even voted against raising the debt ceiling so she can become a media star of the far left.
And his donations get even more granular into what benefits him specifically. Yas hates public schools. He's obsessed with school choice. That's the corporatist idea where instead of funding public schools, parents will be given vouchers that they could use at the private school of their choice. He thinks public schools are a huge waste of money, specifically attacking exorbitant public school teacher salaries.
Average school teacher in Philadelphia with benefits makes $117,000 a year.
That, by the way, is about 0.001% of what Yas makes every year. This will just be funneling money to private institutions with limited enrollments, including schools Yas and his wife are financially tied to. So instead of a teacher making a fair salary, that number he mentioned includes benefits and retirement. Wealth would be transferred to charter schools, religious institutions, and rich kids going to expensive private schools. It's so blatantly corrupt that even network TV sitcoms are roasted.
There's an online petition a couple of our parents started to make Avid part of legendary charter. They take our funding, not to mention the private money from wealthy donors with ulterior motive. Weird ass rolling around. Don't threaten me with a good time. Oh, not every student in the neighborhood could count on attending Avid if we turn charter.
Yeah, Avid Elementary is in Philadelphia, I'm pretty sure. So that is directly about where it is. And we haven't even gotten into his most intriguing.
A lot of people on TikTok that love it. There are a lot of users. There's a lot of good.
Susquehanna is a major investor in ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok. The TikTok ban was originally a Trump thing, until Trump suddenly changed his mind after a meeting with Yas.
Thank you very much, Pennsylvania. God bless you.
Yas says companies shouldn't be involved in politics, just making money. But Yas is Susquehanna and makes major donations. And Susquehanna itself is also making political donations. Yas says
everyone is living almost the same life, except rich people have jobs they like and poor people have jobs they don't like.
But another difference is that only the rich can game the system to get even richer. If you want to support more journalism fighting corporate greed, please don't forget to like and subscribe, send this video to your friends, and if there's something you want to see us cover, throw it in the comments and we'll try to take a look.
I see you on the social media with your gaming rigs. You don't know how to stay humble, but I do. And it's all thanks to my friend Ahmet from ABK Case. His humble computer cases will take your ego from Elon Musk to Keanu Reeves in 2 weeks flat or your money back. But what exactly is humble about this? I mean, he certainly isn't referring to the quality. At $330, it's among the pricier options for cases, but it looks and feels top-notch, deserving of the premium. Besides, if you don't have that kind of money, this store features a wide variety of designs for as low as $110 US. I mean, pretty good for a small-time entrepreneur and a local metal shop taking on the big players in the case market. So you just stand there and okay. He says his cases are handmade and powder-coated, and unlike some random dropshipper, I was not able to find his product on AliExpress, and he has hundreds of satisfied customers if his Etsy reviews are anything to go by. So I can't wait to build my humblest computer ever.
Starting with these gold-plated fittings.
These look sick. They don't really say humble, do they?
No, but neither is this segue to our sponsor.
Ugreen. With its 12th gen Intel processor, expandable 8 gigs of DDR5 memory, integrated AI smart assistant, and more, there's a lot to love about their NASync DXP6800. Stay tuned to learn more, or check it out at the link in the video description.
I got you back.
Our relationship with Ahmet got off to a bit of a rocky start when we overpaid for our humble case by about $50 on eBay. When we reached out to him through Etsy and asked, hey, what the heck is up with that? He explained that that's just because of eBay's higher seller fees. Since we were in contact, we followed up with, hey, who the heck are you and why are you making these cases? And the story's fascinating. He let us know that he currently operates in a small machine shop in Turkey where he's been making his own PC cases for about 4 years now. In that time, ABK has expanded their lineup to include wall-mounted cases like this one and even some open concept desktop cases. The configuration we went with includes 2 large cutouts on the top for radiators, as well as, well, I don't want to spoil it. Let's show you guys how it goes together. We're gonna kick things off with this Maximus Z790 Hero motherboard from ASUS, which comes in at a modest $550 US.
Not quite 1%er yet.
No, but you're definitely in the single digits. Look, in fairness to us, Ahmet says this computer was, and I quote, made to hang computer parts on the wall and enjoy a magnificent view. Well, gosh darn it, if that's what it was made for, then EK did the right thing, hooking us up with all these gold-plated fittings.
I'm gonna stop you right there, Linus. We recorded this video a few weeks ago and used a bunch of parts from EK. Since filming, there have been allegations of mistreatment from EK's staff and our friends in the industry. We hope we can remove this disclaimer in the future. But now, back to the video.
Oh boy, does he ever send a lot, though. We're gonna use as many as we can.
No bends.
No bends.
Every bend will be a fitting.
We're gonna be scuba diving safe.
Oh,
okay.
that was incredible.
Get the bends.
Okay, I'm bored now.
It's a scuba diving illness, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter.
Okay, well,
it's not funny.
Stop saying them.
I'm Jump Master. You lot trust me, don't you?
Shoot. Is that a GPU block?
That's a mono block, baby.
What?
The motherboard?
So you also have a CPU block?
Yeah, you get to pick. I think we should go mono block.
Oh, okay. We were gonna go with a Core i9-13900K, 8 performance core, 16 E-cores, boost clocks of up to 5.8 gigahertz, but then we thought, that's not humble.
No.
So instead, we've gone with the 14900KS, the fastest chip in Intel's lineup. It turbos to over 6 gigahertz under extremely specific circumstances. This is not nearly as monoblocky as I was expecting it to be. In the old days, you'd have motherboard monoblocks that covered the whole friggin' thing, including the chipset.
Oh.
This is just the CPU and VRM, so this is not too much work to install.
What? Stop, you're gonna break the board.
I am so confused right now. Look, it goes down on a threaded loop.
Oh. Get the nut shot. Or, sorry. If this goes well, maybe I'll water cool my computer for my AMD upgrade.
No, I forbid it.
Why? I got drawn.
Did you really?
There we go. Beautiful.
Optics here. Mid-range.
If this goes well, maybe I'll water cool my computer for my AMD
Optics
upgrade.
here.
No, I forbid it.
Mid-range.
Why? I got drawn.
You didn't. Did you really?
There we go. Beautiful. Just look at us screwing together. Sorry. Does this go here?
No.
Where? Here? No, here. Boom. Done.
No.
Oh. Isn't that worth the install of the monoblock?
Oh, yeah.
It looks great.
Oh, my God.
Look at how blinged out these ones are.
Didn't you tell me that some of these are like fake ones?
Yeah, the chrome ones. They're just dummy sticks.
Oh.
But we wanted the visuals of the chrome. We're still going with 248 gig sticks here. I believe they're at 6,800 mega transfers per second.
So these are some pretty fast 48 gig sticks then.
Yes, they are. This is a good time to point out the tolerances, because sometimes these indie case manufacturers can really struggle with getting all the tolerances lined up. So, be interesting to see how the motherboard screws down.
Not great. Look at this one. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's pretty crooked. Also, I couldn't help noticing that these standoffs are so short that the backplate actually kind of interferes with them. There's a bit of a spring action here. Wait, I have a question for you. How did we not go with G-Skill Trident Z Royal?
They haven't made DDR5 yet.
Really?
Yeah, they've only made the DDR4 kits.
But that would have been the humblest of all memory.
You could have actually gotten it like gold to match the fittings.
Everyone knows that the Royals are known for their humility.
You're gonna notice we have 2 SSDs here, Linus.
Humble.
Yeah, reason being is 1, we wanted one that we could water cool, obviously, to match the theme.
Humble.
But number 2, we couldn't actually put it in any of these SSD slots.
Right.
Because when we mount our riser to our GPU, it would block.
Right.
So we're gonna put our water-cooled SSD down here.
And then our high-capacity Humble SSD
up at the top here.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm putting on the power button right now. Things are a little DIY, but I like the style.
Yeah, cool. No. That would be on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off.
On, off, and off, and off, and off.
Off and 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 off.
The next day.
Would you look at this? It looks great, but are you pumped?
Not yet. I see where you're going with this stupid joke.
I think this is going to look absolutely sick between this gorgeous quantum this radiator from EK and wow, is that a nice looking red pump combo.
It actually fits in the radiator slot.
This is going to be as humble as a computer could possibly be. We've even gone with the humblest of fans in the wrong side.
Are they?
Are they 120 millimeters? Because those look like awfully large.
I did everything I could to take 2 people out.
Come res. Tap me.
That's okay.
Tap me.
Making mistakes is how we stay humble.
What's up, Adam Foss?
They come in really big boxes?
I'm hoping.
Good,
Maybe
yourself?
They just have the humblest boxes.
Can't just call everything humble.
I'm at home.
Yes.
Oh, they are. Okay. Oh. I was really worried.
Wow, these are
I
heavy.
don't know. They never,
metal.
it's not like they discuss any of that shit with us.
Feeling
I just see the schedule and it says that
fan
I'm off,
cables
so.
down. Oh, they got daisy chain.
Oh, sweet.
Not as elegant as the Lee & Lee's. It's just with a cable, essentially. But
Yeah.
it looks really clean.
Speaking of which, though, I'm a little concerned about the airflow behind the case if we either have to push or suck through. So I did bring 3 more fans that we could put push-pull config to help lift this radiator just a little bit more. If you think it's needed.
I don't.
Then let's not do it.
We've got all this ventilation all around here.
Some even at the top here.
And you would be surprised how little space a fan actually needs above it to suck and blow air. So I'm thinking we're gonna go pushing air in. It's not ideal for maintenance, but it looks better.
Oh,
And
geez.
what's more humble than doing whatever it takes to look better? That does look beautiful. Well, no, beautiful's not quite the right word. What's the word I'm looking for? Humble.
So on the ABK website, the area up here where we're putting our rads, they actually just had this like acrylic panel here that wasn't full of anything. It had no liquid, had no tube outlets.
Oh, that's his whole new thing. He's got an acrylic cutter now, and he's gonna make his own reservoir.
Yeah, I think that's what it's teasing.
But he doesn't yet.
Doesn't yet. So we thought we'd put this in one of these spots. But the problem, as you'll notice, the pump kind of would hit the wall. So we actually stole some standoffs.
So we got a drywall saw.
We did not cut a hole to make
in the wall.
No.
I mean, that's kind of an Elijah solution.
What we actually ended up doing was we took these standoffs. We're going to use these to help prop this up so that way our pump doesn't end up hitting the wall.
We ended up going with this free Waterblox 4090 from Inno3D called the iChill Frostbite. It's got 24 gigs of VRAM, it's flipping fast, it's super clean looking. Well, it's a little dirty, but it's got a clean look to it. For mounting, we're gonna need a couple of brackets. Oh, where are the brackets? Oh, you have brackets.
This is the support bracket, because it's gonna have some sag on it.
Sure is. Wow, is that ever heavy.
To get the PCIe bracket, they're actually installed on the underside of this case.
Oh, good. How convenient.
Yeah. This is where all the extra mounting hardware is for all the stuff. These are the posts for the plexiglass, the power supply. It's all just screwed into the back here.
Neat. Nice. Now, does it come with a PCIe riser, or do we just BYO?
BYO. We had to bring our own.
Not great for the price.
Crap, this riser's so long.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Here's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
Just leave it.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, see, not so bad. We'll just kind of flatten it a little bit back there. So go ahead and plug that into the bottom of the cart, and
okay,
I'll just take up whatever extra slack we have.
Okay.
Stop.
Okay.
Stop. You have it lined up. How are you not able to put it in?
I don't know. Oh, I didn't unclip the PCIe clip. Okay. Oh, shoot. We didn't put the sag bracket on first.
Why?
We need to.
Why? Leave it in.
No, stop. Oh my God.
Is that supposed to happen when you're spraying something?
I don't think so. Is the other half in there? Oh, yeah. No.
Evo harvester here.
We're just going to turn it into a 632 hole. We're just going to drive that in there. Turn it back off.
No. No. No.
After just half a dozen extra steps, we're back to where we started, with an M3 threaded hole. I do take shortcuts.
Who's ready to die?
Sometimes they end up being long cuts. But you know what?
Are we having fun?
Exactly.
No, I'm actually asking. Are we having fun?
Exactly. Nice. I do want to check out the power supply at some point, but I want to figure out our loop order first.
Okay.
Care package being delivered.
Yes.
Leader appointed.
Care package on high.
You kill leaders killed their way to the top. Respect.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
We've gone with the RG Thor 1600 watt titanium, and I know what you guys are thinking. 80 plus titanium efficiency, a 10-year warranty? That's not humble. But don't worry, we've got a plan. We've replaced the stock cables with gold and silver cable mod ones with their Pro Series cable.
Enemy mess them up.
You can't just call every part humble.
When you're humble like me, you can do whatever you want. It's actually kind of funny that we started out building a humble computer and it built a humble us. So this is why I always come back to water cooling. It's a pain in the butt. Like, wow.
This is gonna look great.
I know, right? And humble.
Do you know how much these fittings cost? Would you like to know?
I would guess a humble $12 each.
Damn, bang on.
Really?
Yeah, they're
Nice.
$12 each.
I'm really good at guessing this kind of thing. It's one of my most humble skills. I think we're gonna have to do some bends. I don't think there's any avoiding it, yeah.
Oh.
I think we should do a 90 here.
Okay.
Then a fitting.
Okay.
Then a straight.
Battery critical.
Then a 90 here, then a bend.
Okay.
That's the way.
Okay. Yes, Dad.
I prefer
Charging
Papa.
battery.
Do that.
Hey Google,
No, you've actually said you're.
set an alarm for 8 minutes.
I have said neither.
All right,
of those
your
things.
alarm set for 1:59
Yeah,
p.m.
Calling him Dad's appropriate though.
I prefer daddy.
Yes, Daddy. Wait, you have to put fittings in this?
Yeah.
I thought the two.
That's why I said, like, this, and this was gonna be a bit much.
That looks amazing.
Yeah, that's gonna be a long run. That run might be too long. Right there in the middle of the span. Boom.
So dumb.
Oh, wait! There's one thing I forgot. This.
45 seconds.
Not
Rings
humble.
close.
Can you get me a more humble stop fitting, please?
What just happened?
Bro, what?
What was that?
Sure, I guess we are now. Let's do it.
So what we want to do is we want to heat up the tube kind of evenly around, not just in one spot because then things get a little kinky. Oh, yes. Okay, two things. One, do not lose any of these O-rings.
Okay.
It will leak all over the place. Big mess, everyone dies. Number two, you got to note the depth that it goes into the fitting.
Okay.
10 seconds. Rings
There.
just a hit.
See that? Now it's in.
Oh, okay.
So now, noting how deep it goes into the fitting, we got to figure out
There's a...
where we want to cut it off to in order to achieve the height that we want.
Got it.
Listen up, the rings moving.
Collar goes there. So this
Looks
is
like
a
a care
potential
package is
problem. When you
coming
have
in.
really
Big
short
dents in
runs,
that.
the collar can't really sit on the bent part because
Yeah.
it's not round anymore. So realistically, about there is about as short as you can reasonably go.
Okay.
There you go. You did your first hardline run.
I mean, you did it.
Yeah. You in the sense that, like, you were there.
Okay.
It's like working with Dad, you know?
Yes. Oh, oops. Sorry, Dad.
This extension is so stupid.
It's a $30 bling attachment.
Humility attachment.
Oh, sorry. Stay humble.
All right, you Vance on it this time?
Sure. It's time. Oh, shoot.
Real close.
It's going like a save. Because it's so heavy.
Look at that run, though, okay? Is that sick or what? God, I can't believe how humble this computer is.
What is this?
What's what?
Why aren't they the same height?
Doesn't matter.
Once again, this PC has now claimed 3 people it's making humble.
I feel very humble right now.
There you go. Wiring is complete, almost.
What are you doing?
Well, I need the SATA power for the pump.
That is not a humble cable.
I don't know where the rest of the cables went.
Close your eyes. Search for your inner humility. And the cable location will reveal itself to you. Okay, open your eyes.
Our aim is clear. Enemies lie that way. Throwing thermite grenade.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm calling that good enough.
Ooh.
I know.
It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, all right, fine, yeah, I got it. I would say acknowledging your own stupidity.
Pretty humble.
Very humble.
Yeah.
Damn it!
Okay, go do writers.
No! I want to finish this run! How about you do this one, Elijah?
Okay.
So basically, it goes up and over, so you can use this for that. Just put it in right in the middle.
Okay.
And then just adjust your length until you're high enough to make it over to here with a bend. That's going to be the saga, you guys.
Okay.
Elijah doing one bend in this machine.
Well, 2.
Yes.
Okay.
Why is that tube so short?
Because I'm doing just a little bend here.
Yeah. Okay, so if you do it with a really short tube, you're gonna make it really hard on yourself. Because
this is the one you told me.
It's gonna be very hard to not heat the entire tube. Okay.
It's the one he told me to use.
Here, let's use this one. This will be easy.
Ow, it's hot.
And then you just do a little, ooh. Cool. Here, blow on it. You've never done this before, have you?
No. Alright, let's pull this sucker. Ow, it's really hot.
I swear there's a reason to keep them around. Whoa, that's pretty cash money right there.
You know what? It's a little high, but I think I'm okay with it.
Proud of you, Elijah. That's what I would say if I was proud of you.
Oh my god. I am really nervous about doing this bend. Does that look good, Glenn? What do you think, buddy? Wow, no response, thanks. Okay, I'm really confident now.
That's not terrible.
It's not terrible. Oh, look at this. Look at this. This looks sick.
He still doesn't get it.
Sorry, what am I missing?
You're not being humble.
Oh, God.
If you're doing this at home, kids, put paper towel around the areas you want to protect.
We can lay this back
Supposed to be watching for leaks, Elijah. What the hell?
Oh, what the f? Oh, I'm trying to plug in the fans.
No, we can't lay it back down. We can't fill it like that.
Hit the power switch.
And then we turn it on and hope that nothing explodes.
Hoo-wee! Look at that humility.
Okay.
It's the humblest of computers. It has no working power button. Did it accidentally get unplugged?
No, unfortunately, the wires that are inside that little connector didn't get folded correctly.
I see.
So the connector started sliding off. When we tried shoving it back on, it just fell apart.
Okay, so we have found a couple of quality issues as we've made our way through the build, but the good news is that we have a humble motherboard with a humble power button right there. And that's no harder to reach than that if we're being realistic. This is up there, my man.
It looks...
Well, it's not up there yet. We're gonna put it up there on the wall.
Yes, we are.
Oh, that looks sick. Does it leak?
No.
I don't see anything. Wow, that looks flippin' awesome. Okay, so Elijah, is this the part where we fix Jake's nonsense on this run here? It's too long here and too long here. Comes off the thing like that.
Do you want to judge my two bends?
I'd love to.
This one and this one.
That is really, wow, what a radius you've got there.
Yeah, to be fair, I have no excuse. It
Cool.
was my first bend.
Guys, you got one word to describe this computer. What is it?
Humble.
See?
What's one word for black and gold? Humble.
Brilliant.
I don't know, lean
We
it.
need a desk?
Yeah, we'll
maybe?
drag a desk in after.
Oh, okay. Is that what makes the setup humble? There's no desk, or?
No, it's made to look at, not to game on.
Right.
Now, normally, you'll actually notice there's three almost like nail cutouts, as if you were to like hang it like a picture frame.
Right.
I didn't trust that on our fake studio walls.
Right, that's fair.
So I had Logistics mount this piece of 2x4 that's got a little slit in it.
Yeah.
So we're gonna give that a go.
One thing we didn't anticipate. You can see the wood right through the...
Oops. Oh, yes.
Wow. Don't draw attention to it. It's good, it's good. We gotta fire this up.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. Whoa. Wow.
That is humble.
Yeah, it is. Oh, we need a humble chair.
Oh, that one.
Okay.
Well, you have to sit back and admire. It looks so good.
It's the perfect angle. Who needs to look at the monitor when your PC looks like this?
Let's go.
I mean, 60 FPS on these settings.
Okay, Google.
Battery critical.
Stop.
It's humble time, baby.
Do you see these guys dodging into the car? Oh, wow, that one guy ended up under it. And he gets up?
What a tank.
Are you kidding me?
Be humble.
Watch him get up again. He got up again. That's not humble, buddy. Okay, how about this guy? How about this guy right here? Look at this humble white suit. Bet. I love this machine. It definitely needs 2 rads and then a pumped res combo right there. But I gotta give props to him now. The design, actually
Okay, Google.
solid, pretty easy.
Set
to
alarm
build in,
for
pretty
4 minutes.
intuitive. And while there's definitely some things that he could do better, now that I got a closer look at the powder coating job,
There, your alarm's set for
it
2:04
could be
p.m.
quite a lot better. Overall, I kind of love it.
It looks really good.
It's a really great layout.
And again, they have all the different layouts as well. So if you don't even want this size, they have some that are about half as big. So you could do like a mini ITX version.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be humble, but it'd be just like this humble segue to our sponsor.
Ugreen. Their NASSync DXP 6800 Pro data management solution is fully loaded with a 12th gen Intel processor and 8 gigs of DDR5 memory, expandable to 64 gigs. This, along with 2 10-gig network ports and 2 Thunderbolt 4 ports, means this puppy is fast. With 2 M.2 NVMe bays and 6 SATA drive bays, you can reach a maximum storage capacity of 140 terabytes and compromise nothing when it comes to speed. And it's easy to manage your files with their dedicated NAS app. Plus, their onboard AI makes reorganizing your photos quicker than ever, even if you're offline. You can search for pictures by text and use smart recognition to create photo albums based on your
Whose
criteria.
trap is that, yours
so
or
check out
theirs?
the Ugreen NASSync DXP 6800 Pro at the link down below and save up to 35% until May the 9th.
If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see a hardline tubing build go not as smoothly, why don't you check out the Pro versus Noob Challenge. where I was given a 2-hour time limit to hardline cool and build a computer. Also, I was given some defective parts. So sorry, Dad. It's Daddy.
Oh, hey, you got it on camera.
Astrophysicists say that 95% of the matter-energy content of the universe is dark stuff, either dark matter or dark energy. It's supposedly all around us, but we can't see, feel, or hear it. Shut up! I'm not particularly excited about most of the experiments looking for this dark stuff, but a few days ago I read about a new one that actually makes a lot of sense. Let's have a look. So this new proposal comes from a team of NASA researchers, and they're suggesting to use 4 small spacecraft that fly around in the solar system in the configuration of a tetrahedron. The idea is fairly simple. They want to very precisely measure the distances between the spacecraft to look for deviations from Einstein's theory of gravity right here around us. This makes a lot of sense because, you see, we know from observations that
What do you want me to do? Go die?
makes itself noticeable on large
There's 3 of them in there.
galaxies, galaxy clusters, the
I'll go
expansion of the
craft,
universe,
and then maybe
whether
you'll live
it's
to see
really
another
some sort
fight.
of stuff, or whether we have got
Touché.
something wrong with the law of gravity, the differences kick in only
Especially
at
'cause they're
large
about to get
distances,
third-party,
and
too.
for some reason we can't detect it on our
I don't even have
planet.
any shields or
But
anything
somehow
left.
these two things have to fit together, so nature must interpolate between this local Einsteinian gravity and whatever's going on out there in the cosmos. This means that there should be an effect in the solar system. It's just that it's so small that it's hard to measure. This is why precision tests of gravity in the solar system make a lot of sense. If you look at the explanations that have been proposed for dark energy or dark matter, like modified gravity, they all need some sort of interpolation between galactic and Earth scales. They have a mechanism that makes those effects go away close by the sun, but they never entirely shut down. Modified Newtonian dynamics is somewhat awkward, in that it doesn't tell you exactly how the modification shuts down. It just has an arbitrary interpolation function. But there are other ideas, for example, chameleon fields that could make up dark
Okay,
energy.
Google, stop.
They have what's called a shielding mechanism that suppresses these fields near heavy objects like our planet or the sun. But they don't go away, so you can measure them if you measure precisely enough. But how? Before we talk about big space out there, let's talk about your space. With the Galaxy Projector, you can turn any room into a special place. It creates a colorful display of stars and nebulae, and I found it to be both relaxing and inspiring. And not only that, it's also a smart device. Let's look at some of the features. First off, its RGB colors, brightness, rotation speed, on-off timers, and many more are fully customizable. And no need to get out of bed. You can do it all from your phone. Better still, you can use voice commands with Amazon Alexa or Google Assistant. The Galaxy Projector also comes with a selection of color themes that you can choose from. And there's no need to worry about your electricity bill. This device is super energy efficient. The Galaxy Projector is a neat modern device with solid hardware and software, and it's just what science lovers like me, and maybe you too, need to chill. If that sounds good, make sure to get our special offer by clicking the link below and using the discount code Sabine to get 15% off. Let's then talk a little more about this new proposal. Why do you need 4 spacecraft? It's because if you have only 3, there's always a plane that goes through them. If you have 4, that's a really 3-dimensional configuration. What you do then is that you precisely track the distances between the spacecraft by pinging back and forth the laser signals. This also allows you to measure the relative velocities. And from the changes in the distances and velocities between the spacecraft and their relation to the distance to heavy objects, mostly the sun, you can then infer whether the law of gravity is as Einstein said or has subtle deviations. Albert thinks that's a really cute idea. This type of experiment will not detect dark matter, at least not in the most common versions, but it could pick up some type of superfluid dark matter, which I've worked on for some time. This isn't mentioned in the paper,
Looks like it's
but
a
the
foul
superfluid dark matter also has a kind of screening mechanism, which is that the superfluidity must go away near heavy objects. The idea is that this happens because the gravitational pressure gets too large. So in this model too, you must have a crossover somewhere. This is why I think this experiment is a really good idea, because it looks for a generic effect. Does gravity in our solar system depend on the distance to the sun as we expect? We know that there can't be any large deviations, because otherwise the orbits of planets would be weird. But this experiment can look for subtle, small deviations. I think this is more promising than pretty much all of the dark matter experiments that are popping up left and right these days. I could talk about a new dark matter experiment every day if I wanted to. Like, physicists are using everything as dark matter detectors now. DNA, rocks, quantum computers. I'm about to write a paper claiming that my phone is a dark matter detector. You see, if a gravitino comes by, the phone will ring. That's a negative result, which will make for very interesting new bound on gravitino phone calls. I'll submit this straight away to Nature. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
He'll jump up on my lap as soon as I crouch down.
Rings close. 10 seconds. Hold on to your knickers.
So Nico is a foster failure, and he was just a constant in my life. I mean, I got the tattoo of his little paw on my chest.
Listen up, fellas. Firing out subjects.
Now Nico, he has dubbed me his mother. And,
I just buy food.
whenever it's time for us to take a walk, Glenn can grab that leash. Glenn can crouch down and try to get him on his lap. Okay, he'll always just come to me. He just follows me around everywhere.
My friend Ariel told me recently that her boyfriend's dog is totally obsessed with her. So I decided I would pay a visit and check out this dynamic up close and personal. And of course, surprise her with a little gift from the dodo. Hey!
He prefers women. I apologize for him.
So you think it's not just Glenn? It's...
No.
I actually get away with quite a lot.
You don't like the dude so much?
Okay.
I got it.
So he has his own little side of the bed.
Floor, princess pillow we call it. His bed, our bed.
When he goes to sleep, he has my sweatshirt on his side of the bed. And he won't sleep without my sweatshirt there. I've always loved working with kids, but I never envisioned myself as a mom. And now I am a mom, and I have a child, but it's a Chihuahua. I always feed him first before I... At the table like a human. I cannot be comfortable until he's comfortable.
So I hear you're going away for a little bit, and you're going to be what?
Single mom for 5 weeks for the first time.
Well, since you've become such a super mom, we decided to give you a little present. See if this is something that would help out.
Exendorphin says, what a waste of time.
Reiterating cheap models, new type of AI interaction. So the other thing that came up in our discussions here at the studio is just like, why does this exist? Why do we have this bright orange?
Standard energy mag here. Level 3. Backpack here. Level 2. Optics here. Mid-range. Always better than iron sights.
Wait, sit back down, sit back down. Just a question, not a threat. It's more of a riddle, but I like to answer it. No, this isn't a riddle and I don't want to fucking answer you. Put away your puzzle book. I'm taking another question. What's your question? And by the way, if this is a fucking riddle, I will be so upset. Confusion. So Tennessee. There are good parts and bad parts of every state. I live in Pittsburgh, you live in Philly, there's a lot of fucking Pennsylvania in between. I think it is crazy to me how diverse Pennsylvania is, because even Philly and Pittsburgh are very different cities from each other. Like in Pittsburgh, there are parking spots. And like Philly is like, what if we had the parking problems of New York with none of the public transit? He was like, that sounds great. Can we increase the crime? Yes, we can. Let's do that.
If you were walking through a magical forest and you saw a man trapped in a jar, would you let him out?
This is that guy's fucking question. You motherfucker! You texted in! You son of a bitch trying to hack the system! We told you no riddles!
Well, once we let the guy out of the jar, what's the riddle he's gonna ask us?
Yeah, there's a note that says, say it in a whimsical, riddly way.
But I let the guy out of the jar. First of all, I'm not walking through a fucking magical forest. Oh, this is a question for Jared.
Sorry, say it. Wait, what was the question again? If you're walking through a magical forest, you see a guy.
If you are walking through a magical forest and you see a man inside of a jar, would you let him out?
No.
Yeah, magical forests, they're not like, you know, oh, I did a thing and then there were no negative consequences to that. Magical forests tend to be full of, you know, deceit and mischief. So, no, I would just walk through, look around, and then go home.
Yeah, I can't think of any story involving a magical forest where, like, if you release something, it turns out good. Like, there's never like, oh, and she let the man out of the jar in the magical forest and then went home. It's not the end of that story. You're gonna live in the fucking jar. That's what's gonna happen.
I would. I want to know where you got this huge jar. This 6.5 foot jar. This ain't a small jar.
Everyone here, were you imagining a small jar with a small man? Or were you just like, man-sized jar?
This is a huge jar. I shop at Costco. I can store some shit.
He gets up, he's like...
We never have jars this big at the Container Store. This is great. I need something like this.
And the guy's like, thank you for freeing me. Fuck you, I just wanted the enormous jar.
Well, here's a question. If you were walking through a normal forest and you saw a man in a jar, would you let him out?
Fuck no. I do not know what that guy did to be in that jar.
This better be a sex thing.
Like most fairy tales, it always is. What big jars you have.
What do you think of the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce romance?
I don't really care. Like, I like Taylor Swift a whole lot, and I guess Travis Kelce's right. But, what? Jason's better. Not statistically, but I think that's why she dated Maddie Healy. So that no matter who she dated next, everybody was like, fucking, it's fine. I don't have strong opinions as to who strangers date. And it's very, I can't believe she's with him. Do you know what he's like? No. Do you know what she's like? No. Then fucking believe it. Shut up and get in the jar.
If Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift in a jar in the forest.
Imagine if that was that guy's riddle. What is interesting to me are the people who are like, oh, she's just dating him for his money. What? In the time you said that, she made his annual salary. Which also, as a football player, is not guaranteed. If he gets injured, he does not make any more money. If she gets injured, people will still go to her concerts. She'll be sitting down. Like, yeah, it's wild that they were, like, people will say, like, oh, she's doing it for the fame. It's like, ask the average person in the Philippines who Travis Kelce is. And you'll learn what the fuck fame means.
I was working out today. Yes, I was. And the first story on SportsCenter in the gym was Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce.
I think it's just so cool that, like, football fans now have to hear about Taylor Swift all the time. Yeah. And there was a guy at the gym who was so pissed off, and I was like, hey, dude, shake it off.
I also really want that guy to try to rephrase his riddle like a question. Where he's like, Steve, I got a friend who had 4 legs in the morning, and 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs at night.
Is your friend a table?
What that made me think of was like, what if in the fairy tales you could just say no? So it was like, I solved this riddle, and you're like, nah, I'm good. Shit.
I don't need to cross this bridge, that's okay. Seriously, what's the riddle? Did he leave? That is the riddle. Did we release the man in the jar?
What's up with this
Senate
cube?
passed the bill last night, and President Biden signed it this morning to officially ban TikTok from the United States unless it divests from its Chinese owner, ByteDance. There are very few things in our politics that have bipartisan support, but fortunately, for us, stopping CCP from spying and brainwashing 170 million Americans was something both parties agreed on, and here's why.
January 2019. 23-year-old Jennifer Chen is traveling back home to China to celebrate Lunar New Year's with her parents. She had just sat down with her family to enjoy a New Year's meal when she heard a knock on the door. It was the police. They had come to arrest Jennifer. There seems to be some back and forth between the authorities and Jennifer, but in the end, they arrested and took her to the police station. The whole family was shocked. Why would the government want to arrest Jennifer? She's a bright young student who just finished her undergrad in Europe. She's just coming back to China to spend some time with her parents before going back for grad school. Her family had no clue, but what Jennifer had done was considered a treasonous sin by the government. She had liked a tweet on Twitter that criticized the CCP. Whether it was done by accident or on purpose, it didn't matter to the authorities. It was enough for her to be arrested and questioned. Eventually, they forced her to delete the Twitter account if she wanted to return home. But the government didn't stop there. They continue to track Jennifer's internet usage even after she went back to Europe, and authorities regularly call her mom and ask her if she's visited any human rights websites. This isn't some unique, singular story from China. There's countless amounts of evidence about CCP tracking their citizens and punishing them if they ever get out of line. There's a terrifying video of Chinese cops interrogating a Chinese student who was living in Australia. They had arrested his father and called him using his father's phone and were pushing him to delete his Twitter account.
Here we go, mates. Let's get messy.
这个推特号是不是你的？
我就是没有听说过这个号，从来没听说过。
今天是我找你父亲过来的，我们跟你父亲平时也保持沟通，你可以对我跟你通话的过程进行录像，没问题，好吧？但是我明天我就告诉你一声，我在找你父亲，啊，好吧？你可以录像，我明天告诉你。而且你现在。
The CCP has been perfecting its art of cyber warfare for a while now. That's why any video criticizing the communist regime is quickly downvoted by CCP bots, and the comment section is filled with pro-CCP messages by these bots. Here's an example. So, I just have a simple request for you guys. If you can smash that like button below, it would help the video tremendously. Now, I'm sure you're wondering why I'm telling you all of this. Most of you watching are probably not Chinese citizens, so you don't need to worry about the CCP. But you see, the CCP has already thought of that, and this was their solution. They realized that punishing foreign citizens for criticism of China is basically impossible, especially at a large scale. But what if instead of punishing what people were saying, you could control what they said, control what they thought, and control what they believe? What if there was an app that could track people's every click, every swipe, and every stroke? Once you have enough data on everyone, you can slowly feed them what they want, so people are always glued to your app. Once you have them addicted, that's when the plan starts. You first feed them something small and believable, then move on to feeding them information that you want them to believe. Like telling your users that the Tiananmen Square massacre never really happened, or blocking them from accessing any videos from Hong Kong democracy protests. Then you can feed them what you want them to say. Then you can feed them what you want them to think. And maybe, just maybe, if you get enough data on your users, you can control a whole nation's future.
What's the plan here?
The only problem is that it's the year 2017, and China doesn't really have an app like this. They did have an extremely successful news app called Headlines that more than 100 million Chinese citizens used on a daily basis. This was a powerful tool for the CCP.
Antoine Chouab says, I think we should push forward.
If the CCP wanted to promote more pro-Mr. Xi propaganda, then it was able to just order the developers to do so. If there was ever any news that the CCP didn't like, it would force the app management to issue a public apology and take down the article. Even though Headlines was a private company, you have to remember, there's no such thing as a private company in China.
Care package over there.
But this control wasn't enough for the CCP. So in 2017, they passed a new law, the National Intelligence Law of the People's Republic of China. In the simplest terms, according to the law, every citizen and company is required to support, assist, and cooperate with the state's intelligence work. So if the government ever asked for foreign citizens' data, companies are legally required to give it up. You know what else happened in 2017? Headlines, the app that happily pushed Chinese propaganda, decided to expand to the USA. In America, the app would be called Newsmaster, and it would show people whatever news people wanted to see, with CCP's conditions applied, of course. Unfortunately, the foreign news market was already dominated by big players like Google and Facebook. Headlines spent a lot of money to break in, but nothing. After multiple rebrands and name changes, the losses were just too much to believe, and they decided to shut down their overseas app. The CCP's dream of controlling foreign citizens' thinking and data was to no avail. It was all over. Then, out of nowhere, an opportunity presented itself. As Newsmaster was failing, there was another once successful app that had just failed. That app was Vine. You see, Vine's failure was unique. Unlike millions of apps that fail, Vine actually had a huge amount of downloads and active users. The problem for Vine was that it was owned by Twitter, and Twitter management never really focused enough on Vine to generate income.
When we had those meetings with Twitter, I noticed that Twitter did not care about Vine and was so focused on Twitter. Every meeting I would have with Twitter, and I would bring up Vine, I would bring up you, I would bring up Team Batch.
It was the ugly stepchild.
Yeah, they just didn't care. I don't think they're gonna care. They don't care about Vine. I think Vine's gonna go downhill. I think it's time to move our following from Vine to these other platforms, because this is about to be a sinking ship.
No monetization and Twitter's lack of effort forced many creators to jump to better platforms. With content creators leaving, users slowly stopped using the app, and Vine was shut down completely in 2017. Rest in peace. Newsmaster CEO Zhang Yiming saw this as an opportunity. But first, there's something that I haven't shared with you guys so far. Newsmaster and Headlines both were owned by a company called ByteDance, which is the same company that founded and currently owns TikTok too. And this was the exact moment when TikTok was born. Zhang looked at the failure of Vine, and he saw an opportunity. He realized that there was already a market for short videos, and the market was left wide open for the taking when Twitter shut down Vine. All Zhang had to do was figure out how to monetize an app like Vine. He had the keys to foreign markets. Fortunately, ByteDance also owned another app called Douyin, which was basically the Vine of China, and it had an extremely powerful algorithm that kept the users hooked on the app for hours a day. So, in just a few short months, ByteDance was able to use the tools at their disposal to create a new app for foreign markets, and this was the birth of TikTok.
The powers of TikTok.
TikTok explodes in popularity. TikTok, ADHD in F4.
TikTok, it's like the party you want to be at the moment.
TikTok's addictive 15-second video format could give Facebook a run for its money.
The app is called TikTok.
TikTok. TikTok.
TikTok. TikTok. TikTok.
What is TikTok?
TikTok, of course, is the new kid on the block.
TikTok saw some quick initial success, but this wasn't enough for ByteDance. So to add fuel to this fire, they decided to buy Musical.ly for $1 billion, just 2 months after launching TikTok. Musical.ly was a Chinese social media app that had around 70 million users in the USA. This was the jumpstart that TikTok's rocket ship needed. Just 3 short months after acquiring Musical.ly, TikTok had become the #1 free app in several countries. TikTok still wasn't satisfied though. They kept pushing on for new highs and more downloads. By September 2018, it had become the most downloaded app in the USA, and the 3rd most downloaded in the world. By this point, it had surpassed its Chinese counterpart, Douyin. TikTok now had 500 million global users, and Douyin stood back at 300 million. TikTok's hunger still wasn't satisfied, and this is when the founders figured out a growth hack that would flip the entire social media industry on its head. TikTok figured out that in order to grab more people's attention, they just need to get celebrities on the app and push it. You see, that's the playbook for controlling Western audiences. Snapchat did this with Kylie Jenner, Instagram had Selena Gomez, and now TikTok wanted its own celebrity, which would become synonymous to the platform. First, they got the Tonight Show host, Jimmy Fallon. I will admit his influence isn't anywhere close to Kylie or Selena, but this was just the start for TikTok. When Fallon pushed his TV and YouTube audience to the app, downloads exploded. The effect was enough for other celebrities to take notice, and slowly seemed like everyone else was on it. Now, this was all just one aspect of the success. When measuring the success of the app, downloads aren't really the best metric. Downloads are important, but they mean nothing if users are just downloading and uninstalling the app. The best metric to gauge an app's success is daily or monthly active users. How many people are regularly opening the app and spending reasonable amounts of time on it? TikTok had perfected the top of the funnel, but for it to influence people's beliefs and thinking, it needed to perfect the rest of the funnel. This is where its uber powerful algorithm comes in. Scrolling on an app tricks the brain into pleasure by the release of dopamine. But this isn't something new. Instagram makes you scroll, YouTube app has a scroll. TikTok, well, they took this to the next level. What if you can turn this scrolling into an addiction like gambling? Then you have an app that can change societies. But for us to understand what TikTok did, we first have to truly understand what gambling addiction is.
I'm gonna tell you something that's gonna shock all of you. I'm a gambling addict. I know, I haven't really talked about it much, but it's true and shocking. 5 years ago, it got so bad I had $100 left in my bank account. And you know what I did with that 100? I gambled it on a Mario Party 4 minigame against Slime. And lost. I panicked, didn't know what to do, so I asked for a double or nothing. Knowing that if I lost a double or nothing, I would have zero way of paying the final 200. And I would have to embarrassingly still walk away from the bet. Luckily, I won. I told Slime about that months later, and he forgave me. But it just shows how bad my gambling addiction got. Honestly, there was no greater rush in my life than the opportunity to lose every last penny I had.
Gambling isn't really about money. I'm sure people go into a casino wanting to make money. Everyone walking in wants to get rich gambling on their luck. But that's not why they stay there. The reward for gambling addicts isn't the money or even the winning. The true reward or the real drug is the possibility of winning. Someone who is constantly putting down money on a roulette table or a slot machine isn't really doing it for the winning, but for that feeling they get when they win a roll unexpectedly. Addicts know that they're gonna win, or at least they believe they will. They just don't know which roll it's gonna be. Next one, or maybe the one after that, or maybe the one after that. So in the hopes of winning the next roll, they just keep on betting. And as soon as that moment comes, the cycle completes itself and restarts all over again. That's the evil magic of gambling. Now, TikTok realized that scrolling is a dopamine for the brain, but it's not enough to keep users on the app for too long. After some time, the human brain just gets used to the dopamine, and at that point, scrolling has no effect on its users. It becomes boring. The user closes the app and moves on to something else. Now, TikTok doesn't want that, do they? So instead of providing a constant stream of dopamine, what if we take a page out of the casino's playbook and we turn the scroll into a game of chance? What if the user doesn't even know when the next hit is coming? So what you do is you show them some average videos and randomly throw in a really exciting one. That way users know that if they scroll long enough, there's a dopamine hit coming. Just like a roulette table. As soon as you get that dopamine hit, the cycle restarts. This was the jackpot, so to speak, that TikTok hit. It nailed down the recipe to get people addicted and keep them hooked. And the more time the users spend on the platform, the more powerful the algorithm becomes. That's because the app is tracking your every touch, every swipe, and every stroke. What you are watching is a reasonable thing to keep track of, but it goes deeper than that. It tracks your keystroke, it reads your copy and paste clipboards, it keeps track of your other apps that you're downloading and deleting. It logs your location every 30 seconds. One developer who looked deep into TikTok's tracking code has called it a data collection service that is thinly veiled as a social network. According to that same person, we may not even know the full extent of everything that TikTok is tracking. That's because TikTok has so many different protections in place to hide the data that it's nearly impossible to reverse engineer everything the app is tracking. The biggest argument I've heard to justify this is that every app does it. Instagram, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, they all track your data. But in reality, the tracking isn't remotely the same. All these other apps are collecting your data too, but when you compare it to what TikTok is collecting, it's like comparing a cup of water to the ocean. On top of that, these other companies are not nearly as secretive about what they're collecting as compared to TikTok.
Executives from TikTok, they will never come and take the oath and testify in public. That, I think, is unusual, and I think it begs the question, what is it they have to hide?
Data tracking keeps getting more mysterious from here. According to a study by URL Genius, more than 90% of data tracking on the app was being done by third parties, meaning even TikTok doesn't have control over this. The third-party tracking still happened, even when users didn't opt into allowing tracking in the app setting, according to the study. Users aren't even able to see what data is being shared with third parties and how that data is being used. This becomes a bigger issue when you factor in that more than 1/3 of TikTok's audience are teenagers. Extremely impressionable kids whose data is in control of a Chinese company, and use of that data is impossible to track.
It is required under Chinese law to share user data with Beijing. And TikTok has admitted that it has sent user data to China. To put it bluntly, this is a major security risk for the American people. And what kind of data is TikTok collecting as it runs on our phones? A heck of a lot more than you would think. Images, of course, that users post. But TikTok also collects information about the messages that you send, about the apps that you use, the other apps on your phone. It collects the sites that you visit. It collects your search history. It collects your keystrokes. It collects your location data. It stores all of this and maybe lots more. And I can tell you, as the father of 2 small children, who already have many of their friends on social media, even though they're quite young. I find this absolutely horrifying.
In 2020, TikTok was caught collecting excessive personal data on young children under 13, which is illegal in almost every country. TikTok was also sued for transferring personal data from its users to Chinese servers. TikTok has publicly said that the CCP has no control or access to foreign users' data, but then it quietly transfers its foreign users' data to China, where there is no such thing as a private company, where the law says that every citizen and company is required to support, assist, and cooperate with the state intelligence work. So yeah, it's kind of hard to believe what TikTok is saying here. TikTok's data harvesting methods are so intrusive that the US military has banned its members from having TikTok on their phone, and instructed them to have their family members remove TikTok. Around the world, countries are realizing why TikTok is so dangerous to their society. So if you know someone close to you who's addicted to TikTok, please share this video with them or share it with your friends on social media. TikTok is not just another social media app. It is much more dangerous. All of these threats became more apparent when people realized that the CCP has been using TikTok to push Chinese propaganda to other countries. First, it starts with something small like this. As you're watching that video, the algorithm is tracking everything. How long you're watching, whether you're pressing the like button, commenting on it, or even reading other people's comments. As you spend more time on posts like these, TikTok will keep serving you posts that are similar, but it gets more and more sinister. There are channels built to target young users and teach them about how free speech, democracy, and capitalism is the wrong way of life, and the Chinese way is the right way. This channel did a great video on how TikTok gets users deeper and deeper into this brainwashing rabbit hole. I highly recommend you check it out if you want to understand how sinister all this really is. But it doesn't just stop there. TikTok is also quick to take down content that doesn't agree with Chinese values. There's evidence that TikTok censors posts on topics like the Hong Kong protests, as well as references to Tiananmen Square massacre, Tibetan and Taiwanese independence, the South China Sea dispute, and the treatment of Uyghurs.
I mean, how can I not die when you were fucking making me stand there in the...
I'm making you stand there?
Say goodbye to your favorite shoes. Not support cars. If you love Abercrombie and Fitch's sweaters, I'd say fight me. Mothers and fathers are separated from their children to make clothes for your kids. I would say stop supporting partners.
When a 17-year-old user from New Jersey made a video criticizing the Chinese government's treatment of the Uyghur ethnic minority, her account was just deleted from the platform. It was only reinstated after the news was picked up by some of the bigger media outlets. Also, quick side note, the CCP has been sending bots on other platforms like YouTube just to push propaganda and drown out criticism. So, if you guys can take a quick second to scroll down and hit that like button, it helps me out a lot with the reach of this video. Because of all this, a US senator has said TikTok is a Trojan horse for the Chinese Communist Party. India, Bangladesh, Indonesia, and many more countries that aren't so friendly with China have decided to ban TikTok. India has mentioned that TikTok was a national security threat, especially when you consider the CCP could have easy access to the data. According to the Indian government, the decision to ban the app was to protect the data and privacy of its 1.3 billion citizens, and to put a stop to technology that was stealing and transmitting users' data in unauthorized servers outside of India. The US government agreed with these claims as well. In 2020, a Department of Justice report showed that the TikTok CEO is firmly in line with the CCP's propaganda and has shown in the past that he is willing to do anything to please the Chinese government. The report also stated that there was evidence to prove that TikTok constantly transmits US data to China. That information can be assessed by Chinese authorities to track Americans and build dossiers that could be deployed for blackmail. Also, as I mentioned earlier, The Justice Department pointed out in the report that ByteDance is beholden to Chinese laws that may require the company to assist in surveillance and intelligence operations at the direction of the Chinese government. Because of all these issues that pertain to national security, citizens' privacy, protecting data of young kids, and much more, the Trump administration actually pushed hard to ban TikTok. But instead of this being a unifying national security issue, this ban became a political issue. I don't want to dig into the political arguments, I'm sure you guys know how that plays out. But I do want to look at one specific argument that a lot of people brought up against banning TikTok. Some pretty smart people argued that the government shouldn't ban TikTok because that sends a bad message out to the investors and entrepreneurs. America is a safe haven for free business and enterprise. We are a capitalist society where we let the market decide, and the government banning a private business is not what this country is about. Here's my counter to this argument. I always believe that capitalism is also about fairness. If our companies can't go to China and operate freely, then these Chinese companies, which are basically controlled by the CCP, shouldn't cry about being banned from our market. Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube are all banned in China because the CCP doesn't want foreign companies collecting Chinese citizens' data. Well, you can't cry foul when the same thing happens to you. But the TikTok ban wasn't successful because TikTok claimed in court that it never sent US data to China, and the CCP has no control over the company. TikTok had to sell a small part of the company to American companies, and the company promised to never share anything with the CCP. But boy, was all of that wrong. How can the CCP not have influence on the company when the CCP is one of the investors in ByteDance? On top of that, the CCP controls one of 3 board seats of the company. This gives them more insight into the inner workings of ByteDance and also gives the Chinese government the ability to shape the future of the company. Also remember how TikTok said in court that the CCP has no access to the data? Yeah, well, about that. Based on some leaked audio recordings from TikTok's employee meetings, all the US data is available in China. In fact, Chinese engineers have better knowledge of how American data is handled than TikTok's American employees. In a meeting, a director referred to one Beijing-based engineer as a master admin who had access to everything. So, I urge you guys, please, think more before you continue to use TikTok.
TikTok has pushed Chinese state propaganda ads that have reached millions of TikTok users across Europe. TikTok's advertising library, which became public on July 20th, has opened a Pandora's box of disclosures. Chinese state media outlets have been utilizing the platform to serve up a staggering number of ads to European users. These ads span a wide range of topics, from China's response to COVID-19 lockdowns to promoting tourism in the contentious Xinjiang region. According to Forbes' extensive analysis, it was revealed that since October 2022, over 1,000 ads from Chinese state media giants like People's Daily and CGTN have run on TikTok. The reach has been massive, touching users in multiple European countries, including Austria, Belgium, Germany, Greece, Hungary, Italy, Ireland, the Netherlands, Poland, and the United Kingdom. Many of these ads revolve around showcasing China's achievements in its economy, technology, and cultural heritage. While that may seem harmless, the actual cause for concern lies in the references to Xinjiang. This is where the Chinese government has faced severe international criticism for the alleged mass repression and detention of more than 1 million Uyghurs, mostly Muslims. Shockingly, 92 out of 124 ads from one state media account featured references to Xinjiang. But that's not all. Some of these ads take on a decidedly political tone. For instance, there was an ad featuring an academic criticizing the resistance by the United States and Europe to China's Belt and Road Initiative. Another ad showcased a blogger who accused Western media of propagating lies about the Chinese government's human rights abuses. The presence of these ads begs the question, does TikTok's claim of prohibiting political, election-related, and social issue ads hold true in practice? The platform's response to this matter has been somewhat mixed. While TikTok does label accounts run by state media, instances of inconsistency were discovered in this labeling practice. Additionally, TikTok's ad library does not disclose how much Chinese state media paid to post these ads, and their distribution varies widely. Some ads have been viewed by
Great
hundreds
fucking
of thousands
drop.
of users, while others have barely been seen by 1,000 users in Europe. The implications of these Chinese state propaganda ads on TikTok cannot be ignored. This is not the first instance of TikTok finding itself in the crosshairs of governments from around the world. Now let's focus on TikTok's secretive censorship and surveillance system, known as the Sensitive Words Tool. At first glance, you might think the Sensitive Words Tool is just another run-of-the-mill moderation system designed to filter out harmful content and maintain a safe environment for users. But as we dig deeper, we discover that this tool goes far beyond its stated purpose. It's a sophisticated surveillance system that monitors discussions on sensitive topics, shaping what millions of users can and cannot see. This system operates through a collection of more than 50 word lists. These lists cover a wide range of subjects, from geopolitical issues like US-China trade and tensions, to sensitive topics like the persecution of Uyghurs and political figures like Donald Trump. Even TikTok's own competitors aren't safe from this Orwellian monitoring. Trump-directed prohibited words, special prohibited words for Xi and Peng, sensitive words in Douyin videos in Xinjiang, theming strategies of Uyghur Han couples, local life, Taiwan independence, and Hong Kong. These are just a few examples. The sheer diversity of these lists and their contents hints at a tool far more powerful than any standard content moderation system. This tool could track and collect user data on specific words and phrases, which might end up being shared with the Chinese government. This raises fears about the extent of government involvement in corporate affairs and users' data privacy. But here's the surprising part. TikTok strongly denies ever using these lists on its platform. This raises serious questions about transparency and accountability, as it seems the parent company ByteDance is maintaining tight control over what information users are exposed to, leaving many in the dark about how these lists affect their online experiences. Meanwhile, Chinese state media, operating under MediaLinks TV, is stealthily pushing their narratives about US politics through several TikTok accounts. The alarming part, they don't disclose their connection to the Chinese government. MediaLinks TV, a registered foreign agent based in Washington, D.C., manages TikTok accounts with enormous followings. Take, for instance, Panda-orama, which appears to feature cute videos about Chinese culture. Then there's The Optimist, which focuses on sustainability. Finally, News Talks offers coverage of U.S. national and international news. But behind these seemingly innocent accounts lies a web of deception that leaves users unaware of the hidden hands pulling the strings. A closer look at News Talks reveals a treasure trove of divisive content. It largely focuses on aggressive U.S. social issues like guns, abortion, and structural racism. TikTok has experienced outstanding mass adoption in the U.S., but it stands alone among major social media platforms in failing to label videos from Chinese state media. This lack of transparency allows accounts like MediaLinks TV to spread divisive narratives without accountability. Videos from these accounts hide their true intentions from viewers by targeting specific U.S. politicians and promoting divisive social issues. In response to mounting concerns, TikTok claims to be working on a global policy to address content from state-controlled media outlets. However, skeptics wonder if these actions are too little, too late. Negotiations between TikTok and the U.S. government aim to mitigate national security threats posed by the app's foreign ownership. Some lawmakers fear that the Chinese government could exploit TikTok to gather private data about American citizens or manipulate users' behavior. The true scale of MediaLink's operation on TikTok remains shrouded in secrecy. While LinkedIn profiles hint at impressive viewership numbers, MediaLinks chooses not to provide any insights into their strategies. This lack of transparency raises even more questions about the extent of their influence and the impact on the platform's users. Regrettably, TikTok's misbehavior does not end here. TikTok's data practices have even caught the attention of the U.S. Department of Justice. They discovered that TikTok stores sensitive financial information, such as social security numbers of its American users on servers located in China. This revelation has raised concerns about the possibility of data sharing with the Chinese government due to their strict national security laws. As a result, there are significant worries about user privacy and data security. This is not just about data privacy. It has more significant geopolitical consequences as well. The intense scrutiny in the United States is concerning because TikTok or ByteDance employees may have access to sensitive financial information of American users and businesses. The situation is alarming and could have serious implications. Identity theft using stolen social security numbers is an unfortunate reality in the United States. What's even more alarming is that the Chinese government has faced accusations of similar actions before. This makes TikTok's mishandling of financial data all the more worrisome. As a former White House and CIA national security lawyer stated, it's not just a simple mistake, it's a case of alarming IT security malpractice. TikTok's storage of European creators' bank information in China also raises serious concerns under Europe's privacy law, the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR. As we speak, investigations are underway to determine whether the company has fully complied with GDPR requirements. For reasons like these, in June 2020, India, one of the largest markets for TikTok, banned the app, along with several other Chinese apps, citing data privacy and national security concerns. Multiple countries followed suit, citing similar concerns. These bans sent shockwaves through the social media landscape, with nearly 200 million users losing access to the app. TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, faced the challenge of losing user data out of India and storing it elsewhere. This process raised questions about the security and privacy of data during the transfer. You might be curious about how much data an app can collect. Well, TikTok goes beyond just basic information like email or date of birth. It can access your phone's camera, microphone, photos, videos, contacts, and even track your location. Moreover, it closely monitors your online activities, such as what you like, share, and interact with on the app. TikTok's hunger for user data is quite extensive. TikTok's algorithm is like this magical genie that predicts our every desire and keeps us glued to the screen. But wait, there's more. TikTok's reach extends beyond its app. It employs a nifty trick known as pixel trackers, a widely known technique by many web companies. These tiny, inconspicuous images embedded in websites you visit and even some emails you receive allow TikTok to keep tabs on your web presence, creating a comprehensive picture of your online activity. A popular Reddit post claimed to have reverse engineered the app, alleging it was primarily a data collection service disguised as a social network. Additionally, an iOS update revealed TikTok accessing users' clipboards even when the app wasn't in use, leading to more privacy concerns. Unsurprisingly, such extensive data collection has raised eyebrows. Not long ago, a Canadian security company named Fruit stumbled upon TikTok trackers on government websites, even in states where TikTok had been banned from government devices. Government officials claimed ignorance about these trackers, spotlighting how much we're being watched online without our knowledge. Responding to mounting concerns, TikTok proposed two ambitious projects, Project Clover in Europe and Project Texas in the United States. These initiatives aim to address the issue by housing user data within the countries where they reside and enlisting local consultants to review its usage. Whether these measures can satisfy lawmakers remains a thorny political question, not a mere technical matter.
You're getting chased?
Scrutiny as China's national intelligence law grants the government access to data without a warrant. The U.S. Secretary of State raised alarms, suggesting TikTok might be using data from the Chinese Communist Party. As more governments joined the debate, TikTok found itself caught in a geopolitical chess game. Accusations and concerns piled up, with lawmakers from both sides of the aisle expressing worries about TikTok's data practices. The TikTok ban in India served as a wake-up call for governments and tech companies worldwide. It highlights the urgent need for stringent data protection regulations and the need to prioritize users' privacy and security above all else. While TikTok manages to survive the immediate threat of bans, its future remains uncertain. Under President Biden's administration, investigations into TikTok's data practices continue, keeping the global data dilemma alive. This ongoing saga has raised awareness about data privacy and security issues associated with social media platforms. As the world grapples with these issues, well, China has finally done it.
It's called social credit.
Social credit.
Social credit.
A system of judging the civilians' morality.
They're constantly monitored by facial recognition cameras.
The Chinese Communist Party has finally managed to put the final nail in the coffin of any sort of independence or democracy in China. This isn't just my opinion. Take it from America's former Vice President, Mike Pence, who said this of the system. China's rulers aim to implement an Orwellian system, the so-called social credit score. Why is all this being said? Well, because of threats like this.
China's government wants to eventually rate everyone on their conduct. It's a plan to regulate business and citizen behavior.
The government gives you a score, and the score is a measure of how trustworthy you are as a citizen.
If you do something good, you get a boost.
People accused of bad behavior are being penalized.
There are serious consequences. We're used to it, and anyway, we don't have a choice.
It's a mess. Alarm bells are ringing the world over, as China's framework, meant to theoretically report on the trustworthiness of individuals, corporations, and governmental entities across China, now poses a greater threat to human rights than anything we've seen in the 21st century. Debates are raging all over America, Europe, and the world over whether this should even be allowed to stand, or if the world should step up in the name of democracy, peace, and human rights. The first question is, what is China's social credit system at all? To understand what the system is like, we need to understand what social credit is in the first place. When the Chinese government talks about social credit, the term covers two different things. The first is traditional financial creditworthiness, and the second is social creditworthiness, a statistic that draws data from a larger variety of sectors. The first part, the traditional financial creditworthiness, is something you are all pretty much aware of, because it exists heavily in the Western culture. Think of the way your financial history is documented by banks and other institutions so that it can be able to predict your ability to pay back future loans. That's pretty much it. That's basically the root of the credit score we try so heavily to raise with our every action. However, America has had decades upon decades to perfect this.
Tie 6.
Here, we use the FICO system, the ultimate mark being the FICO credit scores. These are used as a method of quantifying and evaluating an individual's creditworthiness. FICO scores are used in 90% of mortgage application decisions in the United States. Scores range from 300 to 850, with scores in the 670 to 739 range considered to be good credit scores. I wonder what yours is. Too personal? Okay, fine, I'll drop it. By the time the FICO system was nationally standardized in 1989, it had undergone years of development, dating all the way back to the late 1800s. China has lacked that advantage, because despite being well developed, China's modern economy is quite young, so to say. Because of this, the country lacks a reliable system to look up other people's and companies' financial records. Part of this social credit system we're discussing today is meant to rectify it, to build a system aimed to help banks and other market players make business decisions. So that's it for the first part, the social credit element. Let's move on. This one was pretty straightforward. It's the second part that gets the emotions and debates going. As I mentioned before, when the Chinese government talks about social credit, the term covers two different things. The second thing is called social creditworthiness. And that's where the alleged problem is. By social creditworthiness, what the Chinese government is putting across is that in order for society to perform at its peak morality, there needs to be a higher level of trust and cooperation embedded into society from the individuals. That trust that is needed in society is solidified by fighting off stains to public morality. Stains like corruption, telecom scams, tax evasion, false advertising, academic plagiarism, product counterfeiting, and pollution, to say the least. Basically, everything that is wrong needs to be removed from society, with the facilitators of such horrific things punished brutally. By enforcing a system of social creditworthiness, the government, as the parental structure, will hold all individuals and companies accountable for their actions in the pursuit of a utopian society. So in the same way that a financial credit score system can instantly tell you about a person's financial capability and financial responsibility, the Chinese government is creating a system where social credit can do the same. But concerning morality and social trustworthiness, as we go on, I just want you to sit and stew on that for a minute. So, because of this, China's social credit system is widely viewed in the West as a digital surveillance system to categorize and guide people through reward and punishment. Although, in a way it is, it might not be as intense as Western media pushes it to be. So what really is it then? What's the truth? Well, it's complicated, as I'm sure you're already gathering. The social credit system in China should be understood as a method, a mentality of governance, and not just a network of databases and policies to monitor trustworthiness. Due to the implications that may happen when the government crosses the line into morality, mixing church and state if you will, China's social credit system has widely been viewed as draconian. It's been taken as a mass surveillance center, a way designed by the CCP on private citizens to punish them for perceived social transgressions. Looking at corporations, the information that's collected includes anything that could make a company be deemed trustworthy or untrustworthy in society. For example, engaging in anti-competitive or monopolistic activity, engaging in illegal or unethical tax practices, damaging the environment, or engaging in deceptive consumer practices could all be included on a company's credit record with a negative reflection. That is because the company would be deemed to be, well, untrustworthy, and so it will be eligible to face negative consequences. But this is not limited to the bad and ugly only. If a corporation is making positive contributions to society, such as setting up social programs, donating to charitable